Just a little bit is fine. Hi, Vivian. Hi, daughter.
Hey, girl.
Let me turn the music off. Hold on a second.
Oh, you put my brother.
Oh, you can see it on the one with you holding my hand.
Yeah.
This thing is happening. Rika, you jumping in? All right, I'm gonna hang up the phone, Rika. Hang it up.
It is? Oh, okay. I'm going to say, Arlisa, you already on?
Yeah, I joined from my iPad. I had it in my phone.
I'm gonna set up the Facebook Live. Now, I wonder if the presentation will still show once I go Facebook Live. So I'm gonna try it and you let me know, okay?
Okay. Hi, Lonnie. What you doing, Sugar Lump?
You know, we also have,
what you doing.
Rika, I forgot to make you a co-host. Let me do it now because I hear folks pinging in.
Doing what I'm supposed to do, you know?
Okay.
I got to be on it.
Should I share it in the Pause and PR group or I'm gonna do it in the group? Yeah, because I don't want to share it.
That's right.
What?
Kyra just said she won't be on tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Her hubby's having a party because, you know, they moving.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They moving. That's what I was like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
We got to make sure we delete this, the one that you put in the, All right, let's see who it is. Here it is. Oh, snap. Shay on coming on in too. Come on in the room.
Buki.
Yep. Buki and Shay, they're both coming in.
Let me add the link to Zoom in the Facebook Live so that if anybody wants to.
Absolutely.
Where's the link?
You can copy it.
Where
it says go to participant and then hit invite.
Go to participants and do what, sweetie?
Hit invite at the bottom.
Invite.
And then you can copy and paste.
URL. Let's see it.
You got it.
This is why we have you, Mama Rika. Because you do it all. You do all things. Now where'd it go though?
It's on your clipboard, so it'll still say.
No, I'm trying to find the Facebook thing so I can finish typing. Yes, let me mute it. No. I don't know where it went. I don't even know how to find it. Rika, how would I find it?
Let's see, more.
Because now it just gives me the option to stop the live stream, but it doesn't give me the option to go back to Facebook. And
I don't even have the live stream right now, so hold on, I'm trying to see.
Yeah, see if it's on. It's on live stream?
No, it's not. So
okay.
Stop it and then do it again.
Okay. Now I have the link copied to my clipboard, so.
Okay. Hey, Erica Badu, Jonte Jackson.
Hey, girl. Hey. I can't see
She kills these bows, don't she?
Right. I told Tiffany that earlier this week. I'm gonna learn how to do that.
Tutorial. I'm gonna have to do a tutorial.
Just send me the fabric first. Tell them, look, send the fabric, and then I'm gonna go ahead and have it.
You need the exact thing. Okay, I got you.
Right. I need the exact tutorial 3 times. I know that it's the exact same way.
Right. What Lonnie dancing to?
What I need to do, baby? Oh, you got that chair right there.
I got the chair right here next to me.
Oh, look at Doctor.
Eb. Oh, Eb is sitting somewhere different, y'all. She's not sitting in her space on the couch. Oh, shuck you.
Hey, on the corner. What happened?
No, No, not yet.
There's an unwanted guest. That's why.
Cause what?
There's an unwanted guest in my house.
I don't want to guess. It better not be your husband.
You know what? Time out. We just talked about this.
What the hell she say?
She said her husband is an unwanted guest. She used to sit on the couch, babe, but
Oh,
she's
that's
sitting in a different room today. And I said, oh, you sitting somewhere else.
That's some bull.
Look,
Y'all, he doing good. He said he ain't gonna let me out of line tonight. He ain't gonna be inappropriate.
I don't believe it.
All right. Well, the Chapmans are joining.
PJ has on the shirt.
Let's see. Do you have on the
My
shirt?
friend got on the shirt.
Hey, Arnicia, you watch Little Fires Everywhere, right? I said, put on the effing shirt.
That's not how it went.
That's exactly how it went.
Oh, cool.
Come here, babe.
Hey, Peach.
Hey, I'm so happy to be on here with all these women folk.
I don't believe
I
it.
don't know what to do.
He doing the most.
I am just, ooh, this is made my day.
My
Look,
husband.
there's a man right
Oh,
there.
there go a
And
man.
her man finna be there too. Look, Shantae got a chair for her man too.
Ooh,
That's the homegirl therapist.
that's
He
just a
in the
chill.
middle.
And Rika man on couch, he back there in the back.
Shay husband right there too.
He back there in the black playing video game or something. He ain't paying attention at all. He like, shit, yeah, I'm here, right here. Hey,
He made me sick. Rika,
that's about to be me too, Rika. Don't worry.
no, it ain't because you don't even play video games.
I'm gonna go play some on my phone.
He gonna find one today. He gonna find a game
Yeah.
today to play.
Yeah.
Ain't worth a quarter.
Okay, do me a favor. I'm gonna jump off the iPad because I got the laptop. So you make me co-host of that one, please.
Okay, but is it on Facebook Live before I?
That's what I was about to do. That's what I was trying to
Oh,
multitask.
sorry.
All right, let's see.
Hold on a second. No.
So that.
No, this is recording the camera on the computer.
Okay. Hold on, Ruth. I'm gonna give you a minute. Ruth asked me. Oh, wait, hold on. I got more people coming. Podcasting fellowshipping. All right. I don't know who that is, but welcome on in. New people.
All right, so I'm gonna come out of here. I don't want to come off the screen until I know that it's Zoom.
Okay.
It's
So it is live.
okay, good. So now I'm gonna go back to Zoom. So now the next question is,
Oh my god.
what? You ain't come closer.
We need
Come
him in the
closer,
front.
baby.
Oh, you further away, like, yeah, why, yeah, but I ain't too far away from
Why,
mine.
so
Like
you gonna
that.
push my desk back some? You help me? I'll move my drink. Push the desk back.
Welcome everybody who came in.
You gonna move that in there?
No, just push it over and push back. Because I mean, we want to have some space. Move this thing to
Yeah,
this
okay.
picture right here.
It's fine.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
That,
But I want you
right
in the
there.
screen.
That light, that's it.
Pull the light back because that light is so dim. Stressing me out already, y'all.
A whole
That's
mess,
the goal.
honey.
This is why I
A
got
whole mess.
Right?
That's the goal.
Hey, friends, we see y'all over there.
And this is
So
why I
welcome
have a drink.
in.
Y'all. Honey, you don't have a drink.
You didn't make one.
I didn't make you one. Why would I do that?
Relationship goals and rules and
We're not entertaining him tonight, y'all. I would tell you to mute his mic, but his mic is my mic, so
2
we not gonna
hours.
do that.
2 hours of where black women are failing.
Excuse me?
Where's Scheme is that? Scheme over there this call to help back me up.
What did you say?
Hold on now.
Now you gonna go somewhere with that, PJ.
Can somebody please give him
Not
the rules?
tonight.
We're gonna
Now, right?
start a riot.
Not tonight.
I need some backup. I need Keith.
Shantae husband probably will be with me. I don't know.
We outnumber you, PJ. You better watch out. We gonna pull up.
Next up.
He came in here all wrong.
Didn't he though?
I want to get kicked out. I want to be banned.
Already? Dang!
No, the goal is to get banned from this.
You can't get
Those
banned.
are kids I be having in class, and I be like, "No, come on over here and sit right next to me. Don't get kicked out. Right next to the teacher."
Pull up this
That's the
chair.
teacher.
Instead, you're gonna get immunity is what you're gonna get.
Put me out. I don't belong here. Put me out.
You made me so sick, y'all. So bring my fans in. So I see it says Facebook Live actually on the recording as well. So we are in there like swimwear. The Hicksons are coming on. That's awesome.
I need Keenan.
You don't need Kemis, because Kemis is gonna say something ignorant.
Yeah, that's what I need.
They wear matching shirts, babe.
That's cute.
Okay.
Funny.
Couple go. Look at them. Oh, they got shit.
That's so
Baby
cute.
shit.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, he was like, why though?
That's exactly what I said.
And I was like, cuz, and he just started laughing and he was like, you gonna iron it? I was like, well, no, it ain't gotta be all crisp or nothing. Like,
Yes.
Okay, so I'm at my friend's left now. How
But in real life, mine said, you don't think you're doing too much?
he wanted to say it, but he didn't.
See, that's love.
Well, man, him will get along.
Oh, mine says
Yes.
sorry, guys. Mine says Kevin, my son.
That's okay. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah,
I'm using his
we're
laptop.
gonna fix this drink. So we like to give people, a little time to jump on. Let's see.
Look.
So many new faces.
Right? Let me find out the men really want to show up and show out today.
Oh,
No.
is asking for the.
How's it going?
I'm finna say the podcasting. Hey, I don't know what it says on the end. I'm still trying to read them all. So
Look at all these husbands.
right? Spouses and stuff. Some of us ain't got husbands. They spouses. Can't we?
That's okay.
Thank you.
Y'all can have a boo, a husband, or whatever. It's all good. No complaints.
Ain't no booze. Ain't no babes. That's before any other. This is our spouses.
Raven and Jamil on too, babe.
Skip day.
Hey y'all.
How you doing?
Good. How you
This a
doing?
whole, is this a whole
I
party?
like the
thing?
blonde, Raven. It looks wonderful.
Thank
I'm
you.
finna say, look, the men is really coming in. Adrian is on right now.
Hey,
Hey,
Adrian.
you.
Wow.
Hey, Marjorie.
We got 1 minute left.
Hey, PJ.
Hey y'all.
I mean, Precious PJ, not the other one.
This is so cool. So we're gonna give people like a couple more minutes past 8 just to log on like we usually do. And then we'll get started with the conversation.
Hopefully y'all got y'all wines. If y'all haven't, go ahead and get your wines. Hey, Ruth.
I thought about doing the meme game again, but see, y'all get a little ignorant in the comments sometimes.
It happens.
What had happened was,
Let's see. There are a lot of new names on the call tonight.
It's a
tell me about it, right? Look, y'all acting up. Oh, and then, wait, let me go to chat. I'll be right back. Y'all hear my phone, my grandma calling.
Oh, that's cute.
Hey, grandma.
Is that Alicia Jones?
Yes, it is, Adrian Carter.
Oh, y'all do know each other. Oh, Tia
Yes,
has on
she
a shirt.
Ooh,
Love it. It looks so good.
thank you.
Ruth made that shirt.
How you been, Alicia? Long time no hear, no see.
I know, Mr. Carter, long time no see, and I'm in your hood now.
Yeah. But stop calling me by my government name though. Like, you're making me feel nervous.
All right, Mr. Carter.
She did.
All right, we're gonna give it like 2 more minutes and we're going to get started. It's already at 30. That's crazy. That's crazy, Shantae.
Oh, it is like
Yes.
they showed up and showing out, ain't they?
They been waiting on this, y'all.
I know. Rika, I forgot to copy those rules from Instagram for people.
No.
I'm getting nervous, y'all. Give me 1 second. Hold on.
Oh, you ain't came back.
were, Eb. I said the same thing. All right, so I think we should go ahead and get started. It's 8:03. Is Maureen on this call?
Yes, she is.
And Tia, are you on? Tia's on the call too. One of you ladies want to pray for us real quick before we start talking? Because I know this is going to get a little deep, maybe.
I can.
Okay.
Father God, we come to you right now just saying thank you, Lord, for waking us this morning and starting us on our way. Father, we ask that you just forgive us of the sins that we've committed, both knowingly and unknowingly. Lord, we ask that you intervene on behalf of this call. Touch the host, Father God. Allow her to decrease and you to increase, Father God. We ask that everybody be on one accord, and that's to draw something from what is being spoken today, Father God. We ask that you cover the therapist online today. Father God, continue to strengthen her, guide her, and protect her. Father God, we ask that each and every person that is involved in this call tonight, Father God, that they will get some transparency, Father God, humility, Father God, and more importantly, Father God, that they learn and be able to apply those things to grow. It is in your son Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. So first of all, I don't even know where to start, Shantae. I guess we should say welcome to all of these new faces who have joined us for this conversation, right?
Oh, this is crazy. I am so happy. I'm so glad everybody came through. I see you, men. Okay.
Hey, y'all.
So
Everybody.
we want to welcome you all to the virtual connection. This is a little thing me and my sis been doing all COVID 2020, trying to make sure that the women who are a part of our core group have been fed mentally, emotionally, spiritually, therapeutically, if that's a word. But just making sure that we are keeping ourselves intact through this. And so the month of May has been dedicated to relationships, and we just knew we had to have a conversation around romantic relationships, but honestly, we were a little afraid to do it because we didn't know how y'all was gonna act when y'all got on this call. So welcome. We're gonna go ahead. What I usually will do, come sit down, babe. I got Mr. Paz and PR right here with me, wearing a matching shirt. So what I'm going to do is we usually show a presentation during the call. That helps to guide the conversation and helps to keep us on track. And then, so let me share my screen first so we can get going with that part. Hold on. I gotta find it, y'all.
Today's Friday. Everybody have a good Friday. We didn't ask how people's week was. Everybody was good this week.
Girl, you know what? This week went by like it was pressed on fast forward.
Yeah.
It was here and it was gone.
Yeah.
It was like,
but you made it.
But it was good though. I can't lie, it was good because payday happened so fast. But yeah, I'm excited about that.
Okay, so I got the presentation up, so now I can go ahead and share it. Yeah, I usually do ask how people doing, Shantae, but I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know what's happening right now. It's just gotten real.
We got guests.
We got guests.
That's why, yeah. We got company over today.
I can't find my presentation. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. Baby, see it? I opened it on the Google right there. But when I go to, it usually pops up. Let me try this.
All right, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back.
No, that's
my grandma said, "Hey, y'all."
Hey, Grandma.
Hey, Grandma.
1 second, y'all. We're trying something different. So we have the call on Facebook Live, but it's in a closed group, so nobody's gonna see you on the regular timeline. We're just trying this out to see how it works, and then we have the call going here, and I'm trying to find my presentation, and she is hidden right now. Let me X out of it. Try it again.
Oh, look. Oh, Keisha, we see your boo thing over there with his tongue out. Tell him, hey.
I'm in here. So,
say hey.
Where's
Just
Raven?
say hey, because he over there misbehaving already. See?
See? He got no act right.
Where's Raven?
You see me?
She over there in the corner, too.
So
Pageant PR, we here, baby.
Woo! Welcome, y'all.
Okay, bye-bye.
Look at all these. He was like, bye. That was it.
So maybe I open the Safari screen, you think? Maybe it's because I'm sharing Facebook Live. I'm gonna stop that to see, because I don't think it's gonna let me show the presentation if I have it Facebook Live. And now I'm gonna try it this way. Rika, I can't find the presentation. It's not coming up.
On your shared screen, you can't.
No, usually I come right here and open it and then I share it. And right now, this screen is not coming up on my share screens.
Okay, because I was gonna say the Facebook Live is not showing, so I can't see that.
Yeah, I turned it off because I couldn't find the. Okay, let me do this, y'all. I'm sorry, give me one more second. I'm just gonna save it to, so the video not gonna show, but I'm gonna have to do that.
I was gonna say, how many of y'all, before we get started, listen to the podcast?
Well, no, you can actually start with your rules. So Rika, go ahead.
Okay, I'll start with the rules while she's working on that, so y'all ain't idle time. Hey everyone, for those who don't know, I am affectionately known as Mama Rika. I am the background of making sure that we are hearing and being respectful of one another. If you guys have questions like that, you can always, raise your hand so we can acknowledge you, because it's actually a bigger group than last time. So raise your hands, and your participant, it'll say raise hand or lower hand. If you do that for me, I can acknowledge you and let the speakers know that, hey, you guys are available. If you have a question, we have a whole entire chat. Or you want to express something, you can also put it in that chat as well. So feel free. Thank you, Maureen, for showing them, hey, welcome everybody, new and old. So that way you guys can do that and let us know. Again, it was funny, but it wasn't funny. If y'all get too personal, I will mute you. And then when you're ready to calm down and come on back, I'll unmute you. And then if not, I'm gonna put you in the waiting room and tell you, hold on just a second, I need to give you 5. Okay, because we want y'all to stay married. I can't afford no divorce attorney or none of that, so we're trying to keep y'all married and together forever.
I think I got it.
Like these rules.
You don't like the rules? So she was a little bit crazy. I think what she meant to say was,
clean it up.
That this is not a personal therapy session. So we do have the homegirl therapist on the call. It's my boo. But, you know, there we go. Can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, do full screen.
I'm going to right now. I just wanted to make sure that it would show. Hey, it's right there? Perfect. Okay.
Yes. Yep, that's good.
Are you still going to do Facebook Live?
I don't want to get, no, I won't do it this time. I'll do it this time. So, there we go. We're good now. Back. All right. So, welcome to the new and returning guests. Like we said, no profanity. So we generally use, a few words. Sometimes it comes out. So you can say the small cuss words if you feel so that it's necessary. But we try not to use the big words, the big words. What's a small? My husband said, "What's a small cuss word?"
Sugar, honey, iced tea.
There you go.
Sugar, honey, shit.
Sugar, honey, iced tea.
So the small cuss
hard ones are like what?
Don't you say it. So hard cuss words are like the F word and all that stuff. We don't say those words on the call.
I just literally had to explain that to my husband. Like,
right now, Shantae.
They don't use big and small. They all are the same. They don't differentiate. So yeah, it's good that you did make that.
Ooh, mute her. Thank you, Rika. All right. All right, so let's get into the conversation. Seriously though, welcome to the virtual connection. We are so happy to have you all. Black men, we just want to say in real life, we see you. We love you. We're happy to have you on the call with us tonight. We have really powerful conversations amongst us girls. And we've been talking about allowing men to join the conversation for quite some time, but, we didn't know how to make it happen because we were kind of like, if we bring y'all into the call, is this going to turn into us jumping on the men? Are we going to be mad at the men if they're honest and we don't like what they said after the call is over with? Will this carry into the weekend? We didn't want any of that happening. So we said, let's just keep it all women, but this is a conversation about relationships. And when you talk about relationships, you talk about more than one person. So you're talking about a woman and a woman, or a man and a man, or a man and a woman, whatever it is. And one person can't fix or maintain a healthy relationship by themselves. So Having said that, we invited you all to join us. We hope you enjoy tonight. And if you do, make sure you tell your friends about it. So next time we have an event and we're inviting them in, you all are more willing to participate. Shantae, do you want to say anything before we get into the conversation?
No, just keep the rules in mind. And again, a lot of this is going to be a generalized kind of blanket conversation. And so I do understand that each relationship is different and we have our different nuances, but we are just here to give you information that you can use that could be beneficial between you and your partner. So this is not therapy, okay?
And with that, let the show begin. So, I want to ask a question, and I don't want anyone to say anything out loud, but I want to ask you, what is your toxic trait? And I ask this question because a lot of times we enter relationships and we have these lists of things we want from the other person. And we know all the great qualities this person must have, and we're willing to tell everybody how good we cook, how good we look, all the things we can do very well. But we always leave out that part that can really make or break a relationship, and that can be your toxic trait. So I want you to think about that. And if you know your toxic trait right off bat, go ahead and type it in the comment section. If you don't, I want you to be thinking about that throughout the course of this conversation, because what that's going to do is level set and let you know that nobody in this room is perfect, okay? We all got something to work on.
We do.
For those who are driving, if you want to unmute yourself to make your, and you're comfortable with telling us your toxic trait, then go ahead and do that. But we always want you to be safe first.
There we go. Keep us covered, Mama Rika. I'm trying to find my comments. I can't get the comments. I don't have them up. All right. So keep going. So do you see any toxic traits being added to the comments? Anybody? Because I can't see them.
Yes. So yeah, I got you. Toxic trait: communicating calmly and exactly.
Effectively.
Effectively. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Thank you. Work with me.
Anyone else?
They show coming in slow.
Right? Look.
Somebody's put. Are we serious right now? So we're not gonna put we just gonna pretend like we perfect.
Wait. Oh, they coming. Wait a minute. My toxic trait is giving up the real me to satisfy the right now vibe. Someone says not to ask for help, and one of his was being too snappy. All right, man.
Okay. So you know what mine is? Mine is I never say no, and I do things begrudgingly, and then I hold a grudge. It's toxic, right? So you ask me to do something, I say sure, and then I'm mad at you. And I won't say nothing, and I'm harboring this aggression. What's your toxic?
I don't have any.
Lies.
No toxic traits at all over here.
So there is some more on here. There's someone says independence, not communicating and walking away, defensive and resistant to listen.
Okay.
Sometimes I take stuff too personal. My husband said judgmental. Oh, Shantae, that's your husband. Bye.
He can be a little judgmental, but he said it, not me. I didn't get. He gave his own toxic trait.
Okay. Someone says being nice and saying what I mean. Being selfish and not trusting. Ooh, her for the Black Millennial Marriage Podcast couple. They said ignoring my feelings. Him wanting to hash out problems immediately. Ooh, I can recognize that one.
These are good. So, I mean, seriously, we can see, right, that these are things we're coming into relationships with, and we don't broadcast these things. People don't find them out until you're in the midst of a disagreement, until things don't go your way, and then all of a sudden, these things start to emerge, and you're like, whoa, 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 where'd this come from? The other person, of course. And then it's like, yeah, but she checked off or he checked off my list, but they got all this other stuff going on that's unresolved that now you have to deal with because you bought the cow, right? So we're going to start working on that stuff, right? So tonight we have a very special guest, and our guests are the Chapmans, Mikey with EY and Randy with an IE. I heard you all say that on one of your podcast episodes. I thought it was cute. But they have a podcast called the Black Millennial Marriage Podcast, and they discuss all all their learning, unlearning, and loving about marriage. Their podcast is available on all platforms. And so if you haven't had a chance to listen to tonight's episode, I really would like for you to go back and listen to it, and not just listen to it. Be sure to rate their podcast. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoy the comment, and then leave a comment so they know that, you are or are not vibing with the content. And I like to tell people, when you listen to podcasts, you might hear one episode and maybe you don't connect with that message, but don't judge an entire podcast based on the one episode you've heard. Listen to a couple more and get a feel for that person's creative style, because you never know if another episode down the line might resonate more closely with you. So Randy and Mikey, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Ladies first.
Hi. We can do it like how we do on the podcast.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm Randy, and we are the Black Millennial Marriage Podcast. We started the podcast after we had a miscarriage, and originally the podcast was supposed to talk about our road to parenthood because I was pregnant at the time, and then we lost the baby. And so we were like, what are we going to do? And our family thought we should still do it.
Yeah, the podcast ended up serving as more of a therapeutic space, just a space for us to communicate with each other, talk. We came up with different topics every week, and we just decided, I guess we'll keep this going.
Yeah, and then we got pregnant again. And so our followers and listeners got to follow that pregnancy, so that was really nice. But right now we're really just trying to build a community and grow our village, and our community to being married and
It's
Oh, you guys are breaking up.
One second, let it catch up with you all. What's happening?
Yeah, it's their connection on their end that's breaking up.
Okay. So let's give them a second to catch back up. If for whatever reason they end up having to disconnect, we can make sure they get back into the line, please.
Absolutely.
Oh no, that's not them. Okay,
we can hear you guys. There you go. You guys caught up now.
Okay.
We could hear you, but nothing would move.
So you were saying that you got pregnant a second time. People were able to follow your story, and then the podcast ended up being therapeutic, and we lost you from there.
Oh.
So yes, no, we still continue. We come up with topics weekly that we just want to discuss, that either come up in conversation with each other or questions that we get posed from other couples or single people or just from anywhere.
This season we're more about recovery and repairing, because last season was really rough, and now we're finally home together all the time because of the pandemic, and so just reintroducing ourselves to each other. So our episodes are a bit more about what we're discovering and realizing right now in the season of our marriage. So, and it's been interesting. So we're also on Domino Sounds Network, and they're on the call too. And we just got added to their network. Yeah. They're under Podcasting Fellowship. I think that's their name on here. So yeah, we got added to their network, and that's been really good for us to be more in a community of people who are passionate about storytelling and like relationships. So yeah.
Well, we are very, very, very happy to have you all. Just, generally we choose an episode where a woman is the host of the podcast, and we talk about women stuff because this platform really supports and empowers women. However, because we have men on the call, I figured it would really be good to have a man's voice kind of be the leading voice of the conversation, to give weight to their thoughts. And so I believe men tend to listen sometimes a little better to the men than they do to the women. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because y'all can't vote. So having said that, let's jump into the party. So I want to start with a controversial post that we saw on social media. It's been going around for the last 2 weeks, maybe longer. And I wanted to get some thoughts. So I'm going to explain what this says, just in case you haven't seen this before. This is basically a guy who graduated law school, and he decides to go on this rant about how now that he's graduated and entered a new class of men, he is the real prize here to be won. So he continues to say, Black women don't want to deal with Black men who are gay or down low, who have baby mama issues, or he's grammatically incorrect, but that's another story, and he's JD, has a felony percentage, of our race, unfortunately, as statistically, 37% of men, Black men, are in jail. 1/3 of them have a criminal record. 7% of men, Black men, are considered to be professionals. These are the stats he's providing. 70% of Black women go unmarried. And so he's saying all of this to say, y'all got all these X factors against y'all. And so me being a 30-year-old man with 2 high-level degrees, now making a certain amount of money, I'm the real prize here, is basically what he said, okay? So a couple women sent this to me and they said, sis, what you think? And I said, I'm thankful I'm married. And he's not one of the options that I would have to choose from. But that's just me. But I want to get your thoughts on this. And so on the next slide, I put the stats that he provided in his commentary, just so you can see them. And I want to ask if any of the men on the call agree with his perspective, which is that Black women are extremely picky. They have all these credentials or things that they expect men to meet. And because of this, this is why they're lonely and single, basically. Do any men agree? If so, in the comments, you can raise your hand. Rika, I can't see any of them, so you'll have to call on people.
All right, hold on.
Don't raise your hand.
Oh, look, Mr. Jackson over there snitching.
Where? Oh, right here, yeah. Okay, so when I go back to the screen, I'm gonna go back.
I was gonna say, no one's raised their hand yet. Remember, you can go into participant and hit raise hand or lower hand, and I'll be able to see you guys.
Right here, that's how I can see them. Right, no, that's it.
Oh, I was gonna say, Mr. Hunter or Mrs. Hunter, y'all, if you needed to say something, go ahead. I'm seeing people by their last names right now, so I can see faces.
Yeah, Jamil and Raven, I'm gonna ask y'all to go ahead and speak. So I'm gonna start calling y'all like a school teacher, because how this goes is, if y'all don't raise your hands, I'm gonna start calling on you.
Start picking on.
It's the male, the man that has to speak first, correct?
Correct. Somebody said nah fam. Simmons in the chat says nah fam. So I'm guessing he or she is not agreeing.
Somebody named Presh J said, I saw this.
That's Precious.
Oh, but can you make a life though? In real life. I agree with her. So Jamil, what are your thoughts on this?
On what dude said?
Yeah, what dude said. That he is the real prize here.
I mean, that's his opinion though. Like, I don't, like, everybody different. Like, his background, I get what he's saying. You're supposed to up yourself or whatever. That's what's up. He did a great job, so I ain't gonna down from that. And he's cocky. He's he's successful. He probably, going through school and so forth and everything. So he felt like he got a lot of value, right? And a lot of guys come, with their background and where they come from, they might not got a chance to do what he did. You know what I mean? So, I mean, shout out to him, but that just ain't me. When it comes down to Black women, I don't care about the other, like, you're going to get something different regardless of who you with. Black, white, Asian, it don't matter. Something's going to work your nerves. Something's going to get on your nerves. So I'm just sticking with what I know, and what I grew up on, and that's Black women. So, yeah, y'all work out nerves. Y'all, my last nerve.
That's the meal right there.
You feel?
I feel you, folks.
Yeah, I'm talking about. That's why I ain't want to say nothing. I'm like, man, I got great hair right here. I had to put the little down. You know what I'm talking about? The little dye just to keep my hairline. And that's real, but I'd rather stick with the Black woman because I feel like y'all get me more than somebody who's going to bow down on me. Because if you bow down on me, I'm going to take advantage anyway. And I'm going to roll over you. So it's still going to be boring, so I'm going to always stick with my old sister, Black women.
All right, then.
Yeah. All right, I'm with you, bro. I think that what he's talking about is a stereotype, and I think all stereotypes are based in fact. And in some form of fact, they're not all the way true, but nothing truly is. I think, like you said, the brother's worked hard. He's got 2 degrees. He sees what his future is going to be. And, in a way, he's just talking about what his perception is of a situation, what he's seen, probably what he's experienced. And, who are we to say that his experience isn't valid, right? Do I agree with him? I don't agree with him in totality, but I do feel like he has some good points. And like my brother said, every woman, every man for that matter, has something about them that's going to irritate or, you know, cause somebody a little grief, if you will. But, you know, that's his perspective. That's the way he wants to approach it. The funny thing is, he will probably, just as many women don't like it, there are probably more that do like it, and that are going to be in his DM saying, I'm the one you're looking for. I'm the one that you're talking about. So if you win,
I got comments in the comment section. Mikey said, I don't agree with this idiot. However, you can't teach a ninja like this. Bucky said, but why devalue Black women while stating all of that? That's the problem. Shay says, how is it different than when women say this? Very true.
So wait, let's talk about Shay. Shay, so can you expand more on your thoughts on this topic?
Well, just all of my friends are single and successful. They have, you know, accomplished a lot in their careers. They have a lot of money. And so they're often saying the same thing, like, I'm the prize. I need a man that's going to be able to meet me at my level educationally and financially. So I feel like when women say it, women are like, yeah, sis, get you a man that's doing better. But when men say it, you know, I know a lot of people that are like, I'm not dealing with Black men because I want somebody who's going to be, you know, this particular way. So I think if we're going to call him out, we should call women out too when they do that too, you know?
I second that, Shay. I agree with you.
I third that, Shay.
But okay, so you know what? And I don't think the issue is that he is stating what he has found to be fact, right? So he's done his research and he's found these statistics, which I find interesting because I do a lot of research on things and I can't find research on the things I really want to find, like mother-daughter relationships, like health issues that we suffer. But you could find out that we're 70% of us are not married. And that, you know, only 7% of our men are professionals. And so that's a concern for me, right? Why is that the kind of research they're doing on Black people? I'm just curious. My other question is, I guess I just want to understand why we see so many of these kinds of posts. Because I don't recall, and I could be the only, maybe it's just me. I don't recall seeing a lot of these kind of posts about like Asian women or Hispanic women or white women. Why do I always see these kinds of posts on different outlets about Black women?
Black people speak out.
Yeah, it's not Black women.
So you see these kind of posts about?
No, it's Black folks in general. We tend to talk down on our.
You rather be heard.
Yeah, no, we tend to talk down on our own self more than other people do. Like we'll say, oh, this nigga ain't shit. Oh.
Ninjas.
My bad.
I read it, but
those Negroes aren't nothing. Don't even sound right. That, you know, we talk down on each other sometimes, and that goes back to some of our oppression and all that, of course. So, you know, we're working through that still. That's why some folks need therapy. Some folks, not me.
All the folks.
A lot of folks.
All the folks.
All right.
Maureen has her hand up.
Yes, Maureen.
I want to go back what somebody said in the comments, like, you can have all these facts, and I'm with you. He can feel like he's the prize because I raised my boys to feel like they the prize, you know? Like, I don't, and they ain't got no job, but I still make them feel like, you know, you the prize. You don't go chasing. You the prize. So I respect him doing that. I'm with you, Tiff. Like, what significance is this on you finding your mate? Like, what you putting in? Like, you got all these facts, you got all these degrees, but what you doing? Like, you still single, like, that was your focus. Like, okay, they're even if they never get married, are they quality human beings? Are they quality individuals? I know I just watched a story, somebody, uncle just got out of prison and he just bought his own truck and started his own trucking company. Like, what significance are you showing? Like, okay, this can be your facts, but what's the story behind it? Or what's the story after it? Like, these are just starting facts. Like, okay, just because you went to jail, what does that mean? Okay, just because you did all these things, like, there's no, what substance is this going to get you to your mate? What substance is this going to get? I don't care if you date an Asian woman. I'm a Black woman that's married and didn't get married till I was 38, 37, 36. And what? Like, okay, But one thing I can say, waiting that long got me a mate that I'm willing to die with. Like, what point is he making? Like when you contaminate social media to the point where you're putting all these stats out there, you can either encourage, like Jamil said, you can encourage somebody, a black man, to want to go further and get his degree, or you can discourage a black woman who's trying her hardest saying, I'm never going to get somebody like that. So you got to be mindful. Like I always was told, like your platform is bigger than you think, and you got to be mindful who's watching you. And if it ain't going to help somebody, if you can count one person that it can hurt, is it worth putting out there?
Yeah, I feel like these are great statistics, right? So like if you're buying food and you look at the nutrition label, these are the things that it's made of, right? But I believe he's missing the stuff that actually matters in a relationship, because it's great that you have all these things. He could have a JD and never get a job, or end up getting a job that pays him $40,000 a year. Because when I was first starting in insurance, I had a coworker whose husband had a law degree and he was working at the he was like a public defender, and he wasn't making a whole lot of money, right? So what kind of person is he though? Does he know how to communicate when things get rough? Is he going to be patient? Is he going to stay with you? Like those are the things that actually matter in a relationship. And I think there's a way to talk about your accomplishments without putting down other people. Shantae, what do you think about that?
No, that was my thing, or my issue with that is like, it's great to, I'm all about self-love and feeling like you the ish, right? And that's across the board for everybody. However, I don't feel like it's necessary to devalue or put down another group of people to do so. And like you said, he can have his JD and not get a job. At the end of the day, he's still Black in America. So that don't, like, none of that means anything, right? And so it's just, I think his tone and how he presented it, it wasn't packaged in a way that was like, okay, brother, I got you, right? And so I think that's the problem, not necessarily like what he said, it's how he said it.
Let me read some comments for you. So Sean said he is also currently with a non-Black woman, which also says a lot about his opinion. Randy from Black Millennial Marriage, he's talking about all of his prizes, traits, but none of his toxic. Can we put the post back on the screen? Oh, that was Bucky. She was asking, I guess she wanted to see something. And Randy also says we internalize racism and patriarchy. Yeah. Is that how you said that word?
Patriarchy, it's okay.
Okay, thank you. Plus, it's always easier hurting someone you're closest to than the real culprit. He's not passed the bar exam, FYI, just for y'all to know. So he went to school and they passed the bar.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have a lawyer in the comments who said, just FYI, he didn't pass the bar. So,
right.
Like a real lawyer.
Just she putting that out there. He ain't no prize. He's still with the rest of us. Nikki.
We're gonna move to the next one.
Okay, and then we have two hand raised, but I don't know who they are. One of them, it says Galaxy on it, and then there's Marjorie.
Okay, so if we'll go to those two comments real quick, and then we'll move to the next slide.
Okay. So Marjorie, go ahead and unmute yourself, ladies, because since you don't have a name to the other one that says Galaxy.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off what Shantae and Tiffany were saying, because just spouting out your professional achievements is great, and I think it's a great thing. We don't have a lot of Black men that are professionals, so it's always good to see our brothers in rooms that weren't created for them to exist in the first place. But the issue is putting other people down, and then also not recognizing, like they were saying, that it takes much more than just what you do to exist in a relationship and to function in a healthy relationship. Is more about who you are. And one thing that would have been more impressive was for him to, just say these things, and then, maybe present some other information, like what have you done? Like, number one, why are you single? Have you done some internal work? What's the, kind of evaluating those things instead of putting down, pointing out the fact why so many Black women are single. So that was all that I wanted to add to their comments.
Okay.
Hey, Tiffany, this is Ralph, man. I'm new to this thing here, man. What's the subject right now? I want to chime in on some stuff. I got some comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm here.
We got a real ninja in the building. There we go. Talk to us.
I don't even know what.
I mean, I don't want to kind of go backwards. I don't want to go backwards.
It's okay. Go ahead, Ralph. Whatever you got to say, go say it. Express yourself. It's okay.
Okay, I only been up about 5 minutes, but what I'm hearing is that we're talking about, men and women in their status and how they carry themselves and their expectations for what they want from their significant other because of what they have
Yes.
or their job.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There was a post from a guy who graduated law school, and to summarize it, he basically said he now has a JD, or he's now a lawyer. He doesn't have any criminal record. He doesn't have any children. He's a part of the 7% of Black professional men. And so while Black women are looking for men who fit all of these things, he is the actual prize in the situation because he's coming in with all these, I guess, credentials.
Right. I can say a little bit, and then I kind of add in later. I think that's the problem with a lot of us Black men, and that's one of the reasons why so many women in the workforce right now, in my opinion, is because we don't know how to carry that role as a provider, protector, a leader, period, in a household. So a lot of times when these women, they have their issues with us, or we have conflict, a lot of times men feel as though because they're the breadwinner, they have this job, they don't have all these criminal records and things like that, that, it gets to a point to where it's almost controlling. And just from my opinion, I think I can understand sisters exactly, because when they go out there and they start working and getting their own job, saying I don't need a nigga, I got this, and I can get it on my own and stuff like that, because we kind of put them there in the first place. So us as men, I think we just got to start with the foundation of what it takes to be a man. And most of that stuff is in the Bible and basically what God speaks of. And that's what we completely lost. And we don't have a lot of mentors too in the Black community. So a lot of us think we're being manly or we leading the household, but we're actually not. So I'll leave it at that for right now, and then I'll chime in when we have more comments.
Okay, Ralph.
And that's the that on the that. So we're gonna move to the next the next slide, right? And the period. And we'll come back to that one. Wow, Ralph. I heard it. So Mikey talked about in his podcast episode, if you all had a chance to listen to it, he talked about the different phases of love he went throughout the course of his life. And I wanted to preface the conversation with providing this before I went to ask questions. So he talked about young love, basically being inexperienced meeting idiocy. He described it as a phase in middle school where he wasn't really taught anything about dating. And he didn't really understand much about girls because he grew up in a household where it wasn't really a conversation with his mom. As a matter of fact, let you do it, Mikey, because you on the go. So I'm doing this for you. I combined bum and dumb love because I kind of feel like they bring
They're similar. Yeah. I actually really like the way that you were telling the story, so I wanted you to just be doing it.
in your episode.
No, I just talked about basically how immaturity led me to ultimately maturity, which led me to recognizing what I needed to do and who I needed to be the person that I should be in a marriage or in a relationship. The phases that I had to go through, I feel fortunate that I was able to go through those stages when I was younger, but I do recognize that there are still grown men, I'm talking like 30s, 20s, that are going through young love right now, or bum love or dumb love, which is just they have no guidance. They're not really sure what they're doing. They're just going along with what they see. What they hear is okay, not necessarily what they should be doing. But yeah, no, in the episode, I just talked about how I made it through my stages and finally found my emotional maturity, which, again, lucky enough to have found that before I turned 20, before I got married. But there are people who are still struggling with these things. But yeah, no, those are the phases. And Tiffany, you were doing a great job. If you want to continue.
Okay. Well, let me just run through them then. Thank you, Mike. Yeah. So yeah, we talked about young love. Then he described dumb love as trying to be someone he really wasn't, to please people who had no idea who they even were. So basically, the blind leading the blind, if that's the easiest way to describe that. He was trying to figure out who he was and started adopting things he saw other people doing. And he feels that phase lasted a really long time, and then that carried him into some love where he was just trifling. And just trifling. He says he was lying, withholding, manipulating women, basically being reckless, and he hurt people. And I want to give you like props for recognizing that you went through that phase and taking ownership of the hurt that you might have inflicted upon others as you were trying to find yourself on this journey to love. And then he talks about, falling in love. So that's the big love with the capital L, where he became emotionally mature and vulnerable in his relationship. And he started doing all the mushy stuff you see on the movies. And he said he had to be willing to and ready to make the commitment and be willing to honor his wife through their relationship. So I want to ask you, Randy, which phase do you feel you caught him at, and which phases have you worked through with him?
I caught him at all of them. We started dating in high school. I was 15 and a half, and so
And prior to that, we were friends, and
Right.
She was aware of me going through these phases with other women. I think that's important to say.
But around college, he was trying to get to love, and we were still in the some love part, which we've done shows about. But I definitely feel like
That's okay. Yeah.
I definitely feel like I knew him and had a version of him at each stage. I'm sorry, your second question, what was that?
Well, I just asked you basically when you started dating him, what phase was he in, and which phases have you gone through with him? So you said you had basically all the phases.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing to see you all still happily married, right? Because I'm sure that bum dumb sum can cause some ruckus in a relationship when you're going through those phases with somebody.
Yeah. And we were long distance in college, so that was the thing.
Yeah, we shouldn't be together.
Right, but we do.
I guess.
I love it. So we're going to get into the questions, the meat and potato, and we're going to open this up to everybody on the call now. And like Rika said, what you want to do is raise a little hand emoji on your screen when you want to weigh into the conversation, and we'll call on you and go from there. So I want to ask a question. This is just open to everyone on the call. Where did you learn what you know about dating?
Oh, and prior to anyone answering while you guys are raising your hand, I know Adrian and Arlesia had questions.
Oh, well, let's go to Adrian first, and then we'll go to Arlesia, and then we'll go to the hands.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have a question. My hand wasn't up.
Okay. Arlesia?
Sorry, he stepped away. He had a comment, but you can come back to us.
Okay, no problem. So I see Aisha. She has a comment or a question?
He has her hand raised.
Yes.
Okay. As far as dating, where I learned about dating, I learned about it from my friends. And that's probably one of the worst things that you could do at a tender age, middle school, or whatnot. And then maybe also by my parents as well, seeing, how they dated, right? And they didn't necessarily do things right. So, and I don't know what is right. I think that's subjective, but that's where I learned, to answer your question.
What are some things you learned from your friends and then some things you learned from your parents, just out of curiosity?
Well, with my parents, I think I learned what not to do. I'll stick to that. And then just like with friends, I learned about, it's like the blind leading the blind when you're that young. Like, I didn't learn nothing from them that would ultimately benefit me. But, when you're left to draw your own conclusions at such a tender age, it can set you on a path that can be a disaster ultimately. So, there wasn't really anything beneficial I learned that, hey, you get with a guy, you look a certain way, be cute, and you didn't want no scrub, for sure. And it was very basic, but those things imprinted on you. And you realize over time, as you go into high school, into college, you have these real shallow standards that are not really defined, right?
I like that. I like that a whole lot. I see someone whoever
In the
Nikki.
comment section, they said trial and error.
Oh, no, I wanted to call on Nikki's phone. So somebody in the comment section, Nikki's phone, she said family models and non-models. Would you mind expanding on that comment in the chat section?
And while she expands, we also have Maureen who has her hand up.
Okay, we'll hop to Maureen while Nikki is figuring out the unmute maybe. Maureen?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Maureen. This is Nikki. I stepped away. I had to get some
Nikki.
water. But I'll jump in after Maureen.
I was gonna say my dating principles was always defense mechanism. It wasn't really a lesson because I never really got a chance to understand the whole dating scene with my grandparents. I don't think I really wanted to go back that far because their story was kind of funny. But most of it was my defense mechanism. I didn't want to be used, so it was like I picked them as I decided. It was kind of like a menu, kind of like I never really had a kind of like I don't know. I guess it's kind of funny because I'm a foodie and I like all food as long as it's flavored, except rutabagas. And so when I look at my dating thing, it was kind of the same concept. Like I didn't have a set type. There wasn't a set type. I just knew what I wanted, and that was what was important to me. And Tiff, my mindset was a lot different than it is now. But my dating scene was based off of what I felt like that day. And it was always, now hindsight, I can tell you, it was always defense mechanism.
Got it. What about Miss Nikki?
Mommy? Yeah, I'll say, well, number one, I started too young. And what I mean by that, y'all might say that's not too young, but like 14, 15 dating, I feel like that's too young in hindsight. But, and then also too, a lot of mine was naivete because I had a father for the most part of my life, but then, latter part, mom and dad divorced. And so, there could be some daddy issues in there. But then the male models that I had, they were great. I come from a family of women, and so they were great husbands, and and so I had great models. And I think that I know that I naively just assumed that, I could give my heart to a man like my aunts and, my family, the women in my family, and, and I got burned several times. Trial and error. And then too, in hindsight, as a grown woman now, and I shouldn't have been in a lot of relationships because I still had a lot of growing to do. But I think for the most part, as I reflect, especially where I am now, I have a big heart. I really believe in redemption and grace and love and forgiveness and all of that. And so I've learned that I've loved too much, and I haven't guarded my heart as much as I should. And so, unfortunately, the men that have presented, I've fallen in love with, they're kind of like the fixer-up type, a little bit narcissistic, very professional, identity wrapped up in their jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And, and so I've had to learn from that, just to know that, I need the man to show me that, he's very, very, very deeply in love with me and is willing, and by love, I mean godly love and sacrificial love and unconditional love. And for me to be more guarded, and for me not to lean into the whole, oh, let me help, join you in trying to repair yourself and make you better and help you to come up. And it just has to be reciprocal. So I've learned a lot.
Very, very nice. I love that. So what I'm hearing you say is that through the course of trial and error, you're starting to identify the things you do and don't want from a relationship. I know there are lots of men on the call, and I want to ask this question. Do men just believe that women just know how to be a good girlfriend, wife? And if so, where y'all get that belief from?
No.
Okay, Mike, you said that a little quick.
Myself, I don't believe that it's just inherent. I believe you learn these things from someone. whether it's, you know, women in your family, usually the matriarch, something along those lines. I learned about women from the women in my family, so I'm assuming that women learn about women, or that's their guidance. I don't think that anybody just gets in a relationship and knows exactly what to do because you just know.
So I could agree with that, but I want to ask, because you see a lot of times where men want women to come packaged and ready to go. They want you to know how to do all these things, right? All the things. Shantae, have you seen that before? But they want you to cook and clean and be a good mama and do all this stuff. And it's like, but in real life, if we don't have any kids, this is our first time having a kid just as much as it's your first time. So while there are things like maternal instinct and things of the sort, we don't just know this stuff, I don't think. But I mean, I'm curious. So Mikey says no. Do any other men on the call feel like there are certain things women should just know before they're in a relationship?
I think.
Yeah.
Whoever that was, keep going.
I think, you know, most men, and I'll speak for myself, and I think some of the guys will agree. To answer that question, I think when we look at a woman and we expect them to like know certain things, it's pretty much just your environment and where you're raised. Because if you're in a two-parent household or your grandmother raised you, or just a single-parent household, you see certain things. So as you get older, you expect, like, if you saw your grandmother, your mother, like, cook, clean, teach you math, you help your son or your daughter with homework, that's what we expect, you know, because that's what we've been shown so long. So that's why we always say, man, we kind of expect, like, she's a good girl because she does this, and that, versus, we think she's a bad girl because she with this certain crowd of girls. And I think it just all comes with, you know, your surroundings and what we kind of expect is growing up.
Yeah, Tiffany. I did. I didn't think that women knew what they were doing when I was dating back in the day, especially when I was younger. The thing is, though, is my challenge when it comes to women is that their sources that they use to learn how to be a better woman or a wife. They usually get it from, you know, family members, moms specifically, who's divorced, don't have a man, been through several men, and don't even have an example of a good relationship, or even friends that have similar situations. And when a woman chooses to get their advice or use that as a mentor, that's when it becomes a challenge or whatnot. So, that's my input.
Okay. Randy said, I'm gonna come back to this question. Randy had a statement about where she learned about dating. So Randy, you want to go ahead and weigh in?
Yeah, sorry. I was saying while I have experienced Mike at all those stages, I do think I was protected in a sense because, well, there were two things. So one, my mom actually dated with us for 2 years before we were allowed to go anywhere by ourselves.
What do you mean?
When we went to the movie, she'd sit in the front row, we'd be in the back. When we went to the restaurant, she'd be over there. Whatever. Then eventually we just end up staying at the house. And so when you can't sneak off and do much,
what I was trying to do,
what he was trying to do, you get to know each other in a different way. And so that helped for the first 2 years. But also, she is divorced. She had us as teenagers, and so she was very forthcoming about a lot of relationship stuff. And she's very passionate about us not getting pregnant young, not getting married young. We still did, but but that definitely showed me how to date. But also, I fell into a trap with experiencing all those Mikeys, because he still treated me better than he treated everybody else. And I think that's a trap that women definitely fall into, and I wouldn't recommend it. And maybe that's not this conversation, but
I want to talk about that real quick though. What do you mean exactly?
So like he said, we've known each other since we went to the same elementary and middle school. And so we've known each other since we were 8, 9, and we started dating at 15. And so I had seen him have girlfriends and seen how he treated people, but he still treated me, better. He still told me a few more things. You know, he still let me in a little bit more than he did anybody else. And so that kind of put me in a space to put up with stuff that I didn't want to put up with, because at least it wasn't like every other girl. At least I was still like unique and special in a way. But shit eventually hit the fan, sorry. And so and we had to
It's okay.
reconcile.
That was a soft one. I think that's okay.
We had to rectify that, but yeah, I just wanted to give more context into your previous question. Okay.
So aside from you all, did anyone else have parents who actually like talk to them about dating, about relationships, about being a good girlfriend or a good wife?
No.
No? Nobody talked to you about it?
No.
My mom did.
Who said that?
Mama Rika.
Okay. So what did your mom teach you?
So my mom was very technical about body parts. So because she was doing a physical therapy training, so it wasn't like, hey, this is your pocketbook as we all do. This is your vagina. And when you begin to date, this is how a man should treat you. This is what you should do in return. It was like a give and take. She was like, not every day is going to be a 50-50. So that's what I learned to seek, is that, hey, not every day is going to be a 50-50, but somehow I wound up with the selfish gene and for most of my life. And I was like, nah, you're going to give me this 80. I'm going to give you this 20. You're going about your business. Later on in life now, I am now a give and take. But my mom was like, hey, this is what you do in order to get this.
So you were raised on the 80-20 rule?
Yeah.
Okay. I see Jamil has his hand up and then Cookie has her hand up.
Yeah, I had my hand up for the whole dating thing. About damn 20 subjects ago. We done moved on.
Talk about it, Mill.
I'm sorry.
Man, look, that's what I was saying though. I feel like I don't know how to date. Even at my age now, 35, I don't know how to date. I always just knew how to have fun. So, like, I had never seen my mom and dad. My mom and dad never slept in the same room growing up, ever. So, I never seen them kiss, hug, none of that. So I never grew up to be an affectionate guy. So but I know how to be funny. Like we was always laughing in the house. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, like, now at the age I am now, I realized I never knew how to date, but I knew how to make a girl laugh. So I always heard women say, I like a man. It don't matter what you look like. You can make me laugh. I kick it with you. So I felt like that was my goal. We're going to go to the movies. I'm going to crack some jokes. We good. You know what I'm saying? You like me, I like you. You thought I was cute. I think you cute. Come on, let's rock out. So now at my age, when I had some of my older buddies, when I watched them like really put on clothes and say, hey, I'm finna go on a date with my wife or a girlfriend, I'm like, oh, y'all, so you actually dress up for this. Like, that's what y'all finna do. And I noticed, like, okay, I got to step my game up, because me just doing the regular stuff and being funny and stuff, I'm not really, because my girlfriend, she's a lover. She wants you to be romantic, date, and that ain't Jamil. And I learned that now I have to do that. So with hearing everybody, I'm like, damn, I suck at dating.
Yeah.
Aww. See, but that's so important, Jamil, because we're all taught, even when you get married, the one thing people tell you is never stop dating your spouse. But what if you never learn how to date in the first place? How you keep that going?
That's what I'm saying. And I think that's been a problem, like, why I haven't took to the next level, because I'd be like, damn, I want she be thinking I don't want to marry her. I'm like, damn, she don't do nothing wrong. She perfect. Shoot. I need to make it happen, but I don't know how to date. Like, I got to keep it, you know what I'm saying? I just know how to have fun and kick it. I always be telling her, you got romantic people and you got spontaneous. I'm spontaneous. I'm somebody who just, you want to go, if I got the money, like, you want to go out of town, I feel like that's romantic.
That is romantic.
You feel what I'm saying?
I'm about to tell you no different.
All right, there you go.
Hey,
I know, am I the only, that's just how I feel. But now I'm learning, like, maybe I got to switch it up. You know what I'm saying?
But why do you have to switch it up? So that's honestly like a part of being in a really healthy relationship is being able to be who you are authentic, right?
But she wants me, so I can't just be about me though. Right. Because she wants right.
Go ahead, Raven. Go ahead.
She wants me to, be more romantic, and I gotta, like, I just never seen that. except on the movies and stuff. You know what I mean? Like my mom, I just never seen people be romantic. It's just not. I don't know.
Right, because I do think that a part of it is you do have to accept people for who they are, right? Your partner. But I think when I think about it, it makes me think about like the love languages, right? So everybody has a different love language. Your partner may have a different love language. So you should be understanding of what their love language is, but also if they have a different one, I feel like you should try to work towards what, doing things that they, would like to see or would like to feel. So I think I think that that's just part of a relationship. It's about trying to make each other happy, but yes, very much so still accepting who you are as individuals. And I think that too, being affectionate and whatever you have to do as far as that person's love language, I don't think that's changing who you are as a person.
Right.
So.
Am I tripping though if I give you flowers and keep the price on it? You know, that little $14.99. But I be wanting people to know how much I paid for something. I don't care if it was $5.
Hey, be yourself, bro.
Yeah, no, I ain't tripping now. I'm like,
do what you do, folks.
You know they tell you to take it off, but you
I heard it. I'd be like, for what? You need to know I paid $14.99. They didn't come off. They don't come off a tree.
You sound like my husband. You sound like my husband. He buys flowers and stuff like. Now I could spend $50 on some flowers or $100 on some flowers, or I could do this, and it's like totally take all the romance out of sending me flowers. I don't even want them no more. Just keep your $100 in your pocket.
Die. All right, put that $100 towards something that's gonna last.
Shantae, go ahead, because I see.
Yeah, look, they die now.
Hey, listen. I think you're right though, because I don't understand the logic of flowers. I really don't, ladies. I don't understand what it is about flowers. They're just flowers, and they're gonna die. And I know it's the thought that counts, but it is such an illogical notion to me. I cannot wrap my head around it. It is so simple.
Flowers. Leave a note on the card. Leave me a note, a handwritten note. Send me like my favorite candy or, cook my favorite. It doesn't have to be flowers. You guys can be creative.
Okay, give me some other options then.
I like flowers.
Write a note on your car with a Sharpie. That's what I got out of that.
Permanent marker on the side of the door. Now everybody know I love you.
Well, you're gonna be paying to get it fixed, so do it too.
Okay. So back to the love languages, right? It's like my brain is spitfiring right now. But one of the things though we also have to be aware of is communicating what we need from our partners, right? So yes, we have different love languages. You may like, what is yours? Mine's word of affirmation. Mine changes, but words of affirmation. He's not a words of affirmation guy. He is a physical touch, quality time guy, right? And if that is not my language, that means that I don't understand your language. I don't get what you need from me. So you have to tell me what that would look like, right? So for me, I love flowers. That's just, it may be illogical, it may be stupid, they're gonna die, but it's something that speaks to me. It's not necessarily for you to get the same feeling out of it that I do, because we have different languages. So that's where that communication piece come in. When we have, like, growing up with who we see with family and friends and the people who are married, that we don't know because they didn't teach us. They didn't sit us down and tell us what this looks like. And so we do have to create our own blueprint at times. We do go through trial and error, but the key to all of that is communicating what their need is and communicating what that looks like. If I say I want somebody who's romantic, you're gonna have to tell me what that looks like, because I'm not a romantic person, right? So they're not gonna have the mindset to even be creative in the romantic department, because their brain doesn't work like that, because they are physical touch, words of affirmation, so on and so forth. That's what I wanted to say.
And the thing you got to keep in mind too is, so if your love language is different than the person you're with, and you're doing all the things, and then this person's still complaining, and you say, like, initially we used to have this argument, and my husband would say, I do everything. Like, I do everything you ask me to do, and I'm loving you the best I can. But I told him, like, you could stop expending all of your energy loving me in your love language and spend a little bit of energy loving me in mine, and I would feel the effects of that, and you'll be less frustrated. Because you're exhausting yourself loving me the way you want to be loved, but the way you want to be loved ain't the way I love. So you tired for no reason.
All in line.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. On that note, though, to what my boy Jamil was saying, when there's an attempt to speak in your language, you have to meet that person where they are. And so if he's giving you flowers and they have the price tag on them, if he got them from the one rose, you have to value that just as like he got you the $1,000 bouquet. Because what you're doing when you say, you got me flowers, but you can take the price tag off, that totally negated him thinking your love language. So it's like, well, damn, you just told me you wanted flowers and romance. I got you the flowers, but now it's an issue with the flowers, right? So what you have to do is walk me into where you want me to be and understand it's going to be a journey, right? So, oh, babe, you got me flowers. You got me flowers. Keep talking. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then eventually you say, babe, just take the tag off the flowers for me. You know what I'm saying? But you done appreciated him so much that he's not torn down by that. And it goes the reverse, right? If we ask you for something physical, right? If I asked her to do something for me, I have to appreciate it. I can't say, well, you didn't do it the way that was in my head.
That part.
Right? Because then she'll be like, well, I didn't know. I'm doing the best that I can. So understand that it's a gradual, it's a progression, right? But you got to give my man credit because he was at the Walmart in the line and like, my baby would like some flowers.
Put the mask on.
Ooh, hey, and then he don't even know if they nice or pretty or what. So he might have had to ask the lady, hey, would you at the checkout, Miss Bertha, you think you like this?
Oh my God.
And then when he get home, you gotta act like same. He just saved the world. He did what you asked him to do.
Bro, appreciate that, bro. Let me know when you want to do a double date, big dog.
Well, homie, you got it.
So you know what? I'm gonna move to the next question real quick, and then we're gonna catch some of the hands on the chat because y'all are coming out.
Wait a minute. Okay.
Cookie, go ahead real quick, and then we're gonna move on.
I was about to say, because so many things keep popping up. Like, we gonna be 41 different topics later. But hi y'all. This is Cookie. How y'all doing? I came kind of late, but I had 2 points, and the 2 points that came to mind was number one, when Tiff asked how many of us were taught how to date. My biggest thing was I was told a lot of what not to do, and I wasn't taught what to do. So my what to do came through trial and error because I mean, y'all, I'm messed up. And I come from a lot of strong women, so I didn't know how to let a man be a man. I didn't know because I was told, don't let a man do this, don't let a man do that. But I was never told, well, when you get a man that is willing to do this for you, this is what you should do. And when you get a man that does this for you, like you just said about the flowers, don't worry about that price tag. Just know that that man is addressing you with flowers, and you should be willing to accept that. It was so hard for me to accept the gifts, guys, because we were told when a guy give you something, he wants something in return, and you better not accept nothing from no guy. And I had to give my gifts back, y'all. I had to give them back. Grandma, listen, I was raised by my grandma. She wasn't having it. A boy bought you what? A candy bar. I don't care what it is. We finna walk right back to that boy house and give him this candy bar back. So it was a lot of protection, I guess, around the girls and creating them to be strong women that they forgot to teach us how to be strong women for our men.
My husband said that's like what?
That's the same thing they tell you in jail. Don't take nothing from nobody.
How do you know this? She said, how do you know this?
You don't know your she don't know your plans, bro.
Tell her she don't know about my hard 3 days in accounting. You know what I'm saying?
I'm fading again.
I'm done. Just put a fork. One more comment. Stephanie Carlisle, you have your hand up, and then we're going to move to the next question.
Yes, you guys got me laughing so hard. I just wanted to speak on when you guys were talking about the love language, and as far as men attempting to please us and express their emotions. I know I'm in a relationship right now where he doesn't have a problem, buying me gifts or giving me flowers or anything like that. But I can, express my emotions to him or tell him how I feel. But when I ask him to express his emotions to me or tell him how he feels, he says that he has a hard time doing that, or he doesn't do that. So I want to address this to the men and ask you, how can I, or maybe the women can chime in as well, how can I get him to open up a little bit more and try to express himself? Because I guess he's not used to expressing himself emotionally, or, maybe he come from a household that did not, express their feelings, openly. And I'm a very emotional person. I, tell my kids, my mom, everyone how, I love them. That's just me. I'm a very emotional person. I'm a very loving person, but he'll tell me that he loves me, but as far as, very affectionate, he's not. So I want to ask you, how you feel about that and how I can bring that part out of him slowly.
She's talking about vulnerability, Shantae, right?
Yeah, vulnerability. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, do you have any tips you want to give before we ask the men to weigh in?
Well, off top, we have to create a safe space for them to be vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be aware of your own self before engaging with him in that vulnerable space, because a lot of times I can say what happens is we miss those cues, right? So we miss that opportunity when they were trying to be vulnerable, and it may not. I think we look for this, like him crying, him like telling us all of his childhood issues, and sometimes it just doesn't look like that, right? Sometimes it simply looks like, I had a hard day at work today, I don't know what I'm gonna do, right? And so that's a part of being vulnerable as well. So creating that safe space and having the warmth to accept it when it happens, because a lot of times we in our own head and we start chopping them off, or as soon as they walk through the door, we telling them what we need and all of that. So creating that safe space. But I think you got something about answering her question.
This Shamara husband. I just been chiming in, but I don't know who this woman was who was just speaking. Oh yeah, amen to you. You just hit the nail on the head.
Oh yeah. No,
I agree with that, but
yeah,
you just preaching that, dude.
There has to be a safe space. He has to trust you immensely, and it's not going to look the way that you think it's going to look, right? So if he's never, as a man, I was taught to, you don't cry, right? And I've been told that since knee high to a grasshopper, right? What you crying for? Don't cry. Punks cry, and that's been ingrained in my head for years and years and years. And so on the rare occasions when I do cry, it's been something like extremely devastating. And if it wasn't a safe environment, there wasn't trust between me and my wife, I wouldn't even been able to cry in front of her. And before we got to that point, there were times where I didn't. I would sit in the car mad, pissed off, angry, and then come in the house and try to put on this facade. So to that point, it's going to take a long time, and it may never look the way that you want it to look. But you have to recognize when she's really good at understanding when something is off, it's not quite right, and just being there for me in the way that I need. And so that then creates a level of trust and safety, and then eventually you'll get there. But you have to be okay with it may never look the way that you want it to look. Y'all may not have crying sessions and him pouring out his heart and everything because you know, if he's been programmed that way for a long time, it may never get there.
And that's attunement, right? So that's me being in tune with my spouse. And again, don't push it. A lot of times when we want vulnerability, we want it now, right? And sometimes when we push it, and you know when you pushing it, it gets him off, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a retreat." Like I was about to, and then here she come with that I'm not gonna do it. And so it's really being aware of those small little nuances and picking up on his cues. Us as women, sometimes emotionally, we take up a lot of space. And so we are always like in our own head, worried about our own emotions. And we never take the time to say, dang, let me check in with him, see how he feeling, like what's going on with him. We don't do that because we're taught like you are supposed to be okay. You the husband, you the leader. You go out, you provide, you come back, make sure everything is safe, protect the house, and we go in the bed. Right.
And I know a lot of times I put a wall up because I've been hurt so much in the past. I'm quick to say, I'm good, I'm all right, don't worry about it, and then, just recently he told me he has feelings too, but I'm like, okay, well, if you have feelings, tell me what those feelings are. Let me know, express them, because if I don't, I don't know what you're feeling. If you don't express those feelings to me, tell me what you're feeling. I'm always expressing my feelings. If I don't know what your feelings are, I don't know how you're feeling.
So I would tweak that, right? So when that interaction happened, I would say, okay, so you have feelings, or not even that. What's going on with you? Like, I'm here if you need me. It's like setting him up to make the dunk or the whatever. What is it? Free, whatever little thing is they run and they hit the thing on basketball. You know what I'm talking about? Never mind, alley-oop. I don't know.
Me, no.
She said pick and roll.
A layup. I'm sorry, a layup.
So, but it's you can't come at him like, well, when I have feelings, I tell you my feelings, or just tell me, right? Just tell me what you're feeling. So it's you have to take a softer approach and a genuine approach, right? So naturally, I think men sometimes feel like you want to know my feelings so you can use it to your advantage. Right? You can make me feel bad about yada, yada, yada. Or you can dismiss them because like, oh, why you feeling like that? Because I did this, and another, right? And so it's just tweaking your approach to him when he said, I think that was an actual cue when he said, I have feelings too.
Yeah.
That was like an end.
That was the first time he've ever said that, yeah.
Yeah, but you're asking him to speak, and he may not have the vocabulary to articulate what he's feeling. So what he's telling you in so many ways is like, watch me. If you pay attention to me, and I'm switching it up, then you'll see that something's wrong with me, and you can help me articulate it. But you asking me to express my feelings, you're well versed in doing it. You can tell me. Listen, all I know is I'm pissed off. Why? I don't know why I'm pissed off. That's all I feel right now. So he may not be able to articulate his feelings to you, but if you watch him, you should be able to pick up on, like I think my wife said, attunement, right? You should be in tune to, my baby is different today. Something's off. You've been off the last couple of days.
Yeah. It's hard though. We're in different states.
They got you.
LA, they calling you the homeboy there.
I love that. Oh my God. You've been listening, y'all.
I want to move to the next question. I want to ask, because Mikey mentioned that he had a mentor in his episode and talked about the impact of that mentor on his relationship. And so, Mikey, can you give us a little bit of context around how did you come into this relationship with the mentor, and how did you identify that you even needed one to begin with?
So this particular mentor, he was a chef, and he was from New York. I have roots in Brooklyn and East Atlanta, so my accent shifts from time to time. He would come and he would cook for the teachers. He'd come and make omelets and stuff for parents on parent days. He had 2 daughters that went to our school, and I like to cook. I like having conversations with people who know about the neighborhood that I'm from, and we kind of just started talking from there. I asked him if I could help him out one day. He taught me how to make an omelet. I grew up watching my mother cook, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I burned eggs often and got cussed out for it. So he taught me how to make an omelet. That was my first real instance with with a man outside of my family who taught me something. Prior to him, I had an uncle who I was very close to, but he passed when I was younger. My parents were not married. I did not have a lot of men around. I was actually very anti male figures growing up. I do have a what's the word for it? A complex past. Thank you, Randy. That was beautiful. But my aversion to talking to men kind of went away when it came to him. He was very down to earth, and he was very honest and open with me. He had, like I said, he had 2 daughters, and it was very interesting to see a Black man with 2 girls active in the school. I was trying to figure out why he was around. Like, what was like what are you doing? I didn't. This wasn't normal to me. He was active in their lives. He was also married, and it was something that I aspired to. I wanted to be around for my kids. I did not have a father who was around for me. And now I'm around her all the time, and this is great. He had a lot of qualities that I wanted to have for myself. And so he was around me, he was around Randy also. And just as Randy was with me through those phases, he was also there. You know how everybody has an OG. For the most part, from what I know, you have people who teach you things and tell you things. You don't always listen, but he did always guide me in the right direction. Whether I listened or not was up to me. And he took my relationship with Randy very seriously. And so I mentioned in the episode that I talk about him in that he was kind of disappointed at first when I told him that I was dating Randy. He was like, "Why would you do that to her?" Then he got mad, like, "Why did she do this with you?" Like, she wasn't as bright as I thought she was. So yeah, that's just a little bit about that relationship. He passed last month, so that was rough. Still kind of processing that myself, but yeah, that's a little bit about that relationship.
Definitely sorry for your loss. And I commend you for being willing to open up and express whatever you're dealing with in your relationship to, with another man, because a lot of times men are very closed as it relates to discussing their relationship and any issues. And so having said that, I want to segue into the question, which is, do we believe it is important to have mentors in our life who help to shape and mold us and teach us about things we don't know as it relates to dating and marriage? And I see Jamil, your hand is up again. Yes, sir.
So long ago, you did it again. That's right. we done went through about 5 slides since then. Hey, we can keep this one going. Oh, I got you. I don't want to backtrack.
Okay. Maureen, your hand is up. Maureen? Okay. So we're gonna.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You had your hand up.
Yes. I do think that it's important to have mentors. I think it's good to have good and bad ones though. So that you're not you don't have this perception of the fairy tale, and you also don't have the perception that everything is all bad. So I think you should have a combination of both. I also when I'm not with Jamil, but I had my hand up in reference to the comment on listening to what men say without words. It's very important. That in tune thing is very important when you're dating someone. I haven't read the love languages. I'm not 100% sure of all of that, but I do pay attention to people very often. And I think that, like what he was saying, is that you have to listen to his actions more so than just his words, because it'll tell you more. And the mentors that I've had have been godly counsel. So the good ones, that is. And the bad ones was kind of doing what I did in college, the trial and error things. And so I learned from both perspectives. And the other mentors that I had that I wouldn't, they probably don't even know, was the men that I worked with in the military, because these are married men, these are single men, these are all type of men. And being the only woman in the office, you hear their issues, you hear their good stuff, their bad stuff, the ugly stuff. And it helped me to understand them from a place that I never would have understood them if I was in the relationship. And so I got a chance to get that outside info. And I've always been the girl that hung around the guys, but working with them, you get to see a lot more things that you would have never been exposed to.
Got it. Adrian, you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. I wanted to just quickly say that when it comes to the conversation of mentorship, everyone is always being mentored by something at all times. And from a biblical perspective, it talks about who we yield our members subject to obey, right? And about not having two masters, that you're going to love one and hate the other. I think mentorship is, we have our, what I refer to as our micro mentors and our macro mentors. Our global general society serves as mentorship. The social conversations, the dominant dialogue that we have a relationship with, you see on TV, all of those play a role in mentoring us as we yield our members subject to them. And then we have those more direct mentors, and our friends, our parents, our grandparents, our family members, all of them play a role in mentoring us as we are constantly, especially in your formative years, always trying to negotiate what relationships are supposed to be as we aspire toward being in one, because ultimately that's a part of our rites of passage. So as much as we sometimes want to look at mentorship, appropriately so, as being someone or a group of individuals, I'm highlighting the things outside of those specific individuals, because they are just as relevant as the people who we say are presently our mentors. Those other things that we're not paying attention to, so to speak, though they're your mentors. I mean, think about that song that you know what song to turn on when you ready to nuck, if you buck if you nuck, or nuck if I don't know. I'm sorry, don't take my black cards, I don't know how that goes properly. But you also know the song that who to play to get the mood set. So you do know who to turn to for certain guidance or mentorship or leadership. So I just want to just highlight that those non-direct mentors are just as the indirect mentors are just as important as the direct ones.
So what you're saying, Adrian, sounds a lot like what my husband says to me. Like if I turn on Love and Hip Hop or Basketball Wives, he'll be like,
"Yes, ma'am. You ain't even got to tell me what he said. You ain't even got to tell me what he said."
Arguing with people and all that stuff. That's what you say all the time, right?
Yeah, that ratchet jump.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, because you know what happens is, whether people choose to or not, and to acknowledge it or not, you take a show like Basketball Wives or Housewives of Atlanta, and they ain't even wives, and you take their relationship and their situations, and people are then synthesizing and drawing conclusions from those episodes as to what they believe is appropriate or inappropriate. Then they internalize them, and then they go and they use those as the lens to assess another situation that has nothing to do with those people. So they serve as indirect mentors. And again, the indirect mentorship can be more impactful and more influential than even the direct mentorships.
I'm so with that, Adrian, Mr. Carter. I can't see your face, but yeah, this is Nikki, and that it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the young man that had was jazzing himself up with his degree. And so just going back to we as women and men as well, we have to listen very closely to see what comes out of the mouths of those that we seek to get intertwined with, because they help us to see what they hold dear in their heart, what they treasure. As Adrian was saying, what is the indirect mentorship? What's the master that they're serving? Because oftentimes, and I know in my case, I figured out that my husband was, his master was his job. And he had this whole family that was built around his job. And that was the master that he was choosing to serve. and essentially, prioritizing that. And then it was compounded by the fact, and, all this came out in counseling, but it was compounded by the fact that, that master and those who were in that relationship and in that family that he had built up through his job, they were anti to his marriage and marriages previous to me. And they actually took pleasure in breaking up his marriages, but he didn't want to see that because he was serving that master. And so, yeah, we all are indirectly, impacted, and we have indirect mentorships. And, that's why, again, being able to listen intently and being able to judge clearly, which I'm working on myself. Is this a good woman? Is this a good man? Or is this a godly woman and a godly man who's willing to make the corrections that are necessary in order to save and hold dear the sanctity of marriage?
I like it a lot. Demetrius, you have your hand up.
Yeah. So I didn't chime in for a while. Can y'all see me?
Yes.
On my phone.
Yes.
All right. So I didn't chime in for a minute because I'm single. So a lot of the things that you guys are talking about related to relationships. But what I will say, as it relates to just men having mentors, I think that one of the important things is maybe not necessarily mentorship, but for example, on this call, everyone that was speaking about how you guys can better your relationships or learn love languages or things that are important to bettering your relationship. If I speak to my single friends, whether it's male or female, the conversation is different. So if I only surround myself with those type of individuals, then I'm not going to better myself or prepare myself to be in a relationship. If I surround myself with people who are already in relationships or who are already in marriages, if that's where I'm seeking to go, then that's where I'll ultimately get, because I'm adapting, or I'm beginning to take on the mindset of someone who's already in the space where I'm trying to get to.
And it goes back to the saying, so a lot of times in churches, some churches will separate the single people from the married people and discourage married folks from hanging out with single people. And I've been to churches where they actually have come back and said, that was not wise counsel. We should not have done that, because how is a person, to your point, ever going to really prepare their mind for a relationship if they don't even know what to expect or what a healthy one looks like, because they're only hanging out with folks who are single like they are as well. Jamil, I got you this time. I just saw your hand go up, so I'm going to come to you before I go to my video.
Oh, no. I mean, no, look, I agree with him. I agree and I disagree. You know what I mean? Well, I feel what he's saying, though. I ain't going to say I disagree. I agree everything that he said. But, I always feel like this when, it's like when they do say, when you do get in a relationship or hang around married people, and you single, hang around. But it's all in you, to me, personally. You know what I'm saying? Because I got, you know what I'm saying, people who are married, they're married. They worse than my single partners. You know what I'm talking about? I won't say no name queen, no snitch. So it's all on you. You know what I'm saying? A lot of my partners were single. I felt like, I ain't gonna lie to you, my whole little crew, we always single, but I felt like I made it kind of cool to be in a relationship, because, when we go to the gym and do certain stuff, I used to be the only one ringing, raving around everywhere. And they started looking at, I didn't even know they wanted a girl, but they're like, damn, I'm trying to get a girl. I'm like, for real? Yeah, I ain't know. But you'll never know, you know what I'm saying? You probably got a lot of partners who do want to be in relationships, but they just don't know how to express it or how to say it. You feel me? So I feel like, just, you can hang around who you hang around with. It's just all in you. It's all in what you want. You know what I mean? And then when you do get a relationship, at the end of the day, you're going to be with her 90% of the time. So they're going to have to take the back seat.
That's right. But it's important to be with somebody who you're compatible with, because what I'm hearing you say is you're able to take Raven everywhere, and it's because you all enjoy the same things. Now imagine having a spouse who didn't enjoy doing the stuff you do, you wouldn't be able to spend that same time together.
But Tiffany, when you said compatibility, that makes me think about something I always ask people, not to go into a different topic, but I'm curious as to what people feel is more important, compatibility or chemistry. I think it's different, but
I think they're the same, pretty much. I don't know.
It depends on how you look, how you would define.
Explain that, Raven. Explain it.
Well, because I think that everyone that you're compatible with, like you have friends that you're compatible with, you have the same interests, right? And I think that builds a good friendship. But then as far as the chemistry, I feel like that chemistry, I think about like passion and things of that nature. So you can have chemistry with somebody, but may not be compatible with them.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like some people weigh it differently. So
I like
that was just a question.
That's a good point to consider. So you know what? I don't know the answer. I'm gonna have to think about that one. And I'll text you my response.
Talk about me, y'all. I gotta get romantic. I gotta figure it out.
Too, man.
Help me, goddamn.
Go get a few dozen roses, folks.
Hey, and I'm keeping the tag on it.
Tag on them.
So I want to show you guys a video real quick because I don't know if you've seen it before, but everybody was talking about Sierra. What prayer did you pray to get Russell Wilson? And he and her, they made a video on live a couple of months ago, maybe, and he was talking about his prayer. And he said everybody always asks her, what did she pray to get me? But nobody ever asked me what did I pray to get her. And so I wanted to share that because we're going to move into the some love and the love section. And I think it's a good point to consider. So
ask me what was the prayer for me. Okay, bro, what was the prayer for you? I ended up writing down my 5 non-negotiables. Because really, marriage is a partnership. It's a business deal in a way, but it's really a partnership. It's like, hey, we're going to do this forever. Like, how are we going to partner and do this? Right? And so, for me, I thought of it that way. I was like, okay, well, you go to a partnership deal or a business type deal, you want to think about what are your non-negotiables? What are things that, this is what I want, this is what I have to have, this is what I'm looking for. So I wrote down my 5 non-negotiables. And, producer Lala over here getting on the teeth. So for my 5 non-negotiables, the first one is I want a woman of faith. That's number one thing I wanted. I wanted a woman of faith. The second thing is I wanted a woman who's faithful. The third thing I wanted is ultimately I wanted an independent woman. I wanted a person that didn't have to be Sierra. They could be doing whatever. They had their own identity. They had their own perspective on what they wanted to do in life and how they wanted to impact people. And that was something that I noticed and see the first time we met and how she spoke about others. The fourth thing was I wanted a woman who was going to love me the way that my mom loved my dad when he was on his deathbed, and how my mom took care of my dad no matter what the circumstances were, no matter how hard it got. Our family, to be honest, we went bankrupt at one point, and it was hard, it was heavy times, and you have to be able to, my dad always knew that we were going to be good, that we were going to be good, my brother, myself, and my sister, that we were going to be okay, because my mom was helping lead the way, and she had a great perspective. And the fifth thing was, ultimately, I wanted a woman who was going to tilt the room. Right? You walk in the room, she walks in the room, full furniture just slides to her. Okay. And so the 5 things my 5 non-negotiables were: one woman of faith. The second thing is one woman who's faithful. The third thing is one woman who's independent. Fourth thing was I wanted a woman who, who loved me the way that my mom loved my dad. And the fifth thing was, ultimately, is I wanted a woman who would tilt the room. I wasn't going to settle for 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5. We were going to go 5 for 5. And that was it. You got it. And we got 5 for 5 plus.
So
that's so cute.
It's really cute, right? But the thing I loved about it most is, and I asked this question on social media this week, and I am not like calling anybody out who responded, but there were people when I asked them, do you have a list? People started talking, yes, I have a list, and then they have to have this, and we talk about all the things we want in a relationship. But going back to that question about what's our toxic trait, we never really have on our list of things that we don't want. And so basically, if you listen to his list, it doesn't talk anything about physical characteristics or any of that kind of stuff. He's talking about like non-negotiables, things he does not want to deal with. So he doesn't want somebody who doesn't love God. He doesn't want somebody who's unfaithful. And so I want to ask you all, when you decided to date the person you're with or marry, or as you're single, have you considered the things you don't want on your list as opposed to considering the things you do want from the person you're going to be dating? Hands, please. Shay has her hand up.
So we definitely did. I think it was different for us because we both had children and we both were already married. So we knew when we went into our marriage what was like non-negotiables for us, like that we just wouldn't tolerate, that we, you know, just things that this isn't happening if these things happen. So for us, yes.
So you did have, and did you communicate your list to each other of things that you are not willing to deal with?
Oh yeah, right. Like from the very beginning, because we both realized that we dealt with things that we shouldn't have longer than we should have. And so the only way for us to really, like, we went into our, you know, we met online. So we went into, and we did long distance because I was in New Jersey and he was in Pensacola. And by the time he moved here, like by the time he moved to New Jersey, by the time he moved to New Jersey with me, we had already, like, we were going through and writing lists so that we would understand. So there was no miscommunication, you know, let's lay it all on the table up front because this is my last time trying this. So
I'm just curious, how did you come out with the list? Because like I've had a list before, but I don't know how to come and say, so here's my list. Like that seems weird to me. And whenever I watch movies and I see people say like, here are the things I want, what's your 5-year plan? Like, I think that's weird. I don't know, but I just don't.
Yeah. For us specifically, we used to do like I would find questions online. Like I found 100 questions online to ask people because I realized I had been married twice already. Judge yourself. But by the time, you know, I realized, first of all, I didn't really know myself that well. We have a large age difference. So I'm a millennial. He's a little bit more old school. So our values, just everything that required us to raise, we have 6 kids altogether and 4 grandkids, well, almost 4 grandkids. So there was so much that we had to just, there's like no play. Like if we're going to get married, we had to sit and talk. I'm like, so is it okay if I don't work and you pay for everything, or I got to work? You know, we had to have those real conversations like during the honeymoon stage before we even really got deep into it, because I was like, I'm not going down this road again to just realize that, you know, you do things that I can't tolerate, and vice versa, more so him than me.
So I'm hearing you say basically you just sat down with him and you said, let's have a conversation, and you went through things on your list.
It was multiple conversations. So we fasted a lot because we realized that there was a lot of things that we dealt with that we need to put under subjection. Like that was what we realized right off top. Like, okay, there's some other things spiritually going on. So through those fasts, we made lists every time we did a fast, things we were praying for, clarity, and we would just continue to add that list. And I kept it in my phone because to this day, we still are like, hey, we talked about this, right? We talked about this. So there's no confusion. This is a non-negotiable.
Okay. So it wasn't like a first date, this is my list. This is like over time, you guys talk through things and you express your feelings and what you did.
Yeah. And we were long distance, so it was different. So yeah, we had a lot of time on the phone, and we weren't physically in front of each other, which is different for any other relationship, because when I'm with somebody, you know, we're hanging out, you're physical. We didn't have the opportunity to do that as often. So we had to talk. We had no choice but to talk.
I like that.
Shout out P. Cola again. East side over here.
We're ready for a brunch. Okay?
Brunch effect. Okay.
We're ready.
Where y'all at? I think some of the homies in here. Brunch effect. Let's make it happen.
Okay, baby.
Okay.
Marjorie, your hand is up, and then we're gonna go to Jamil and then Buki.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it was much easier for me to come up with a list of things that I didn't want. And it wasn't even something that I had to write down. A lot of things I saw growing up in my home, in friends, relationships, etc., that I was just like, I just don't want that. So I never actually wrote down a list of things that I wanted because I honestly didn't know what I wanted, because I didn't even understand what a relationship, a healthy, functioning relationship should even look like. And so for me, I kind of just like went with the flow for a while. And, you know, even like now in my season of singleness, like the time that I actually wrote a list and I commented on your post about it was when I honestly felt led by the Holy Spirit to write down some things, because I actually lost hope for marriage at one point. I was like, maybe I'm one of those people that, the Bible says everybody's not intended to be married. And I honestly thought maybe that was me until something changed. But it took learning about relationships and understanding it from a godly perspective and what the purpose of the relationship was. And then that kind of helped formulate it. And then listening to Pastor Todd's message just kind of like confirmed that. So coming up with what I did want was easier. And now understanding things from a much more kind of biblical perspective is much easier to know what I want. And it's not more so, I don't know how that will actually happen, like how they talked about it. But me, I'm really big at this point on observing. I had a really bad experience in the past with telling people what I was looking for and what I wanted. And I literally had someone tell me from my past that I was being the person that you wanted me to be. So just looking for someone who's genuine, and those are truly like that person's characteristics, and not having to tell them every single thing, I think is important as well.
Yeah, I like that. So there are some people, like I've spoken to women who will literally say, this person has to be 6 feet. They have to have this build. Like they look for that kind of stuff. And I just don't know if that carries you through a relationship, right? So yeah, you might be physically attracted to the person, but where's the substance? And it has balance, because looks do matter. You don't want a gremlin, but in the same breath, Jamil shaking his head, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just, as we get older, I believe we learn that the substance is really in the other stuff. And it's not necessarily in just the way that we look. Shantae, I see you unmuted yourself, so you about to say something.
No, okay. Well, I think a lot of the work too, though, in order to identify what our non-negotiables are, even what we do want, it starts with us, right? And so I want to say the reality of the situation, a lot of people get into these relationships and you don't have those non-negotiable conversations until conflict happens, right? Or there has become a shift in like growth and change in like an individual person. And so it really starts with you and you trying to figure out like what are the things about yourself that you know that you can deal with, and what are the things about yourself that you know that you cannot.
So I'm hearing they have to do some self-work before they're really able to exist in a relationship in a good way. Buki, you had your hand up?
I did. So for me, I've always said that at the end of the day, like I did used to have a list, and child, it was long. This is a long time ago, but recently, and I kind of have to agree with Marjorie, just with everything that we've been learning about in Bible study, and that somehow aligning with what Michael Todd is doing, it's kind of shifted my perspective. And so I've come to a couple things, and I guess just one of the things that's at the top of my list is that at the end of the day, as long as I am respected, like a lot of other things can go, south, but at the end of the day, as long as you respect me, I think that's what matters the most. And I always said, like, I'd rather you respect me more than you love me. Because at the end of the day, if something were to happen and our love falls out, I know that you're not going to, call me out of my name or do something disrespectful with me, especially if I'm, the mother of your children or whatever it may be at that point. At the end of the day, I want to be respected at a high regard. And then 2, I forgot who said it, but someone was talking about the difference between compatible and like chemistry. For me, I feel like I'm at a point where I care and I seek more of that compatible feeling. Chemistry is great. I equate chemistry to like the physical feelings and like everything feels, giddy. But for me, I want to know that whoever I end up with is, supposed to be my soulmate. Like that's supposed to be who I am designed and ordained to be with, because we are compatible, like our souls are compatible. Versus I think chemistry is just, oh, does it feel right? Oh, does it, are we always giddy? And that's not always going to be the case. So, yeah.
So I want to ask though, why is there an option between respect and love? Why can't we ask for both?
I think both should be there, but at the end of the day, if it comes down to it, people fall out of love all the time. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't wish this on myself, but I hate to see people who are in love fall out of love, and then all the respect goes with it too. I think at the end of the day, respect should be the foundation, and love is built on top of that.
Yeah, I can understand that. I see Black millennial marriage. So the Chapmans have a comment, and then Jamil.
We were talking about our non-negotiables and what our list was. So for me, it was I wanted to make sure I felt safe around him. Like I need to be safe. That we were both passionate about stopping sexual violence, especially in the family, and being very open about our daughter's not going to be around, our children aren't going to be around this family member. We're always going to be upfront and use real language when it concerns body parts and things, because that was not the case for me. Passionate and what was my other non-negotiable? Oh, we don't curse at each other. We don't curse a lot at each other.
I don't curse at her.
We don't.
That's what she was about to say.
We don't. And we don't hit each other. Like no emotional or physical violence. So that was on my list. Yeah, that was my list.
Nah, mine was more basic. I just want her to love me, not cheat. That was about it.
Boy, okay, we're muting ourselves.
Jamil, yes, sir, or Raven?
Yeah, it was me. I was just gonna comment and say I think that the list depends on like your stage of life, because I look at kind of like when me and Jamil started dating, I was, single, wasn't really looking to be like in any kind of serious relationship. It kind of just happened, so I really didn't have a list. And I think that too, like if you had dated, I think that your list may evolve and you may learn kind of like what some of your non-negotiables are. So I guess my question, it may be more of a comment in a question. So I guess the question would be kind of with you guys that are in relationships and that have been in relationships for some time now, do you continuously talk about your list and have your non-negotiables change?
That's a good question. I believe, just for me personally, and I can answer, we continue to evolve as people, and so our needs change, and I'm very good about giving feedback. Those of you who know me, you know that I'm very into letting you know, so this is how you need to love me now, right? This is what I need. And I believe in a healthy relationship, which we're going to go to, I guess I'll go to that slide now. In a healthy relationship, one of the key components is effective communication, right? So as we come to the close, the thing we wanted to get from this conversation, I know we had a lot of dialogue about other stuff, but as you're evolving in your relationship, that is commitment to the process. So that's the third thing you see on this slide. But before you get to the commitment is the fact that you have to have effective communication. Because whatever you come into the relationship with, you have to be able to articulate that. And then as it changes, continue to be able to articulate that. And what I see, it's not love that causes people to separate or money. I mean, it could be those things, but at the root of it is simply an inability to communicate effectively. And that entails being able to listen to your partner and being able to talk to them as well. Communication is so important in every aspect of a relationship, from dating through marriage. Shantae, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, with the communication, the first thing, and I always say this, is like you have to check yourself first, and you have to be able to identify what exactly it is that you're trying to say, because the other person is not in your head, they're not in your feelings, like they don't know how to understand what you're putting out unless you convey it in a way that they can understand it and it's clear. The other thing is with the communication, sometimes I think we get into a place where we withhold how we feel because we don't want to hurt the other person, or it's uncomfortable and we don't want them to be mad. But there isn't a benefit from like withholding information or how you feel from your partner, because then you're not going to get what you need, which then turns into resentment, which turns into conflict, which then leads to divorce, right? And so you have to have that the ability to be in tune with yourself and to be able to release this expectation that you have to have your partner's feelings for them.
So in response to your question, what I would say is that if your non-negotiable is changing, it may not have been the right non-negotiable to begin with. When I think about Randy's and what they're said, that will never change throughout their life. They'll never not want to be safe. They will never not. They probably won't ever be okay with somebody being in the room that could potentially take advantage of their children. And so, if your non-negotiables are in a position to change, you may want to rethink those non-negotiables, right? If they're that shallow or that surface that they can change, they're probably not the ones that you really should have, right? These should be things that are foundational and integral to your core, and that should never they should be unwavering. They shouldn't be able to be changed. When we talk about non-negotiables, I just want to say.
But Elaine, do you think that, like, let's say if people who get married young or get into a relationship young, of course you're going to have things that are on your list of non-negotiables, but as you continue to evolve and experience life, your perspective is going to shift. And I get the things that she mentioned; those are significant things, right? So those are like non-negotiables, like big ones. But for those of us who don't have those types of things on the list, it is very possible that over time things may change, because you might develop more of a tolerance, understanding that when you didn't think it was necessary to tolerate something before, now you realize you should have the patience to tolerate this kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like growth will change your perspective on how you see situations. Like
I think that takes me back to That takes me back to, I think her name is Bucky's point, that the thing that's on her list is respect. I think we can get caught up in creating lists and creating these things that we want, and then they'll eventually change. I think they serve us a purpose at that time, but I'm just not necessarily big on creating these lists or these, because if I went by the list that I had when I was younger, we probably wouldn't be together, right? So I think what being in a relationship has taught me, and if I could share this with anybody, which is the reason I'm saying, is that maybe those lists are for you to create, things that you wanted and to work on yourself, and then they don't necessarily transition into something that's like a hard, concrete no. And I'm not talking, maybe the, physical abuse, emotional abuse, those things are foundational things that I think should be integral to your core, right? Somebody that says, hey, you have to be equally yoked in their faith. That's integral to their core, and that's never going to change. So I'm okay with that. But some of the other ones, I just want you to kind of take a step back and really evaluate your list.
Yeah. And then you have to see, like, I guess that goes into like how do we define non-negotiables, and how do we define like certain behaviors that a person does, because that changes, right? So as I became Shantae 2.0, certain behaviors that he was doing, they just wasn't rocking with me, because now I knew myself, and I knew like, oh, I don't really think I like that, right? Like, I don't really think I like how that makes me feel. So that changes, but that wasn't necessarily my non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying. So, I get what you're saying. Raven, your hand is up. Is it you or Jamil?
It was Jamil. You were talking about the light versus love, because she was talking about people, I think, falling in and out of love.
Yeah, I used to always tell Raven, I tell everybody this, man, I'd rather like you than love you. I hope I don't sound crazy. The reason I always said that, because I done love so many people and I don't like them. Like, I don't have to talk to them, see them, nothing. But when I like you, when I like something, a person or anything, like, I always got to be around it, or I always got to have it. So I used to always tell Raven, I'd rather just like the hell out of you. You know what I mean? And when I like you, I feel like I feel like that keeps people together.
I love that.
Like, love, you can love somebody and just like, don't like, I think my parents, I think they loved each other, but they didn't like each other. So that's why they never slept in the same room. They never kissed each other. It became like a business to raise me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So now I just grew up to say, man, I just rather like somebody, because when you like somebody, it's like shit. You just can't get rid of them. So
I agree. My first marriage, I loved my husband. I did not like him at all, and I still don't like him. And so, I mean, funeral. So I get exactly what you're spot on. And because he wasn't a person I wanted to be around. Like, if he said, let's go on a trip, I'm like, who else is coming with us? Because I don't really want to be around you, because I don't really enjoy you. Like, I'd rather have us and our friends out, because I enjoy my friends. Yes, I love and respect you and you fund this, but I like my friends. I like our friends. So, Shantae, you were going to speak?
It's kind of along the lines with the respect thing, where, because in a relationship, you do have the waves, right? So you do have the peaks and the valleys, and sometimes you ain't rocking with your husband or your partner, right? And it's not that I don't love him, but I don't like him right now. But I respect him enough to not be disrespectful, to not talk bad to him, to not curse him out, and to choose to continue to be in this marriage and this relationship. But I ain't rocking with him, right? Like, we went through that point, and what kept us there, I think, is that mutual respect we have for one another. And it's like, we are committed, right? So whatever that looks like, if we gon', what is that Jay-Z line? If the house on fire, we going down together, right? Like, we are going to be in there and we're gonna figure it out. So I think it goes back to like that mutual respect that you have for that partner, because it's not gonna always be rainbows and bunnies, right? It's gonna be times where you be like, bruh, like okay.
Yeah. So those are the three things. So this is the last slide, and it's effective communication, mutual respect, and commitment to the process. And so mutual respect is having just as much respect for the person you are with as you will want that person to have for you. It is honoring your relationship by understanding the boundaries of both parties, along with each person's individual needs and a willingness to operate within those parameters, because you got to understand, you have boundaries for the relationship, but people are still people outside of the relationship and in the relationship. And a lot of times we think of it as a union, and we don't want to give recognition to the fact that we're still our own person operating in a relationship with someone else. And I get the biblical aspect of it, but even in God, you're still evolving as your own person in your marriage. And then finally, commit to your process. You know, I tell people all the time, you can't work towards something if you don't know where you're going. What's the goal, right? So you have to have it in your head that you're working towards this goal of staying together forever, or whatever your goal is. And you got to commit to that process, because that means that when things break, you fix them. When things fall out of line, you put them back in line. You commit. Both of you guys agree to do the heavy lifting because you're committed to the relationship. But if you don't commit to the process, then what happens is something happens and you out.
Yeah.
I ain't doing this. I can't handle this. It's too much. And marriage is not easy. So a lot of people want to be married, but they don't understand the work it takes to really have a successful marriage. I see a lot of married folks on this call shaking your head like, it's a lot of work. It's enjoyable when you're with somebody you like, who you respect, and you guys can communicate effectively. But if no other thing you take from this conversation, start with effective communication. Understand how to communicate, and then you can build the other things from there. Because once you learn how to communicate, then you learn boundaries, you learn how to listen, you learn how to speak, your tone, your inflections, all of that, and you build on that as you go forward. So I hope you all had a good time. Did you learn something from the conversation? Was it helpful? Yes, no? Comments? Well, we are here every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to thank the men so much for their very healthy commentary. Again, we would have gone a little deeper, but honestly, we just can't, because this is like a toe, touching our toe in the water to see what it's like, see how it's going to work. And I'm happy to say this conversation went very well. So I appreciate you all taking the time to join us. And does anybody want to say anything before we end the call? No one? No?
Was commenting in the comment section, letting you know that they love it. It was great.
Hey, it's Arlesia.
Yes, Arlesia?
We have a comment.
Okay.
Well, he has a comment.
So yeah, I've been listening off and on for a moment now, and there's a couple things I actually wrote notes. I'm gonna be very brief. On several different topics. Is the video on? Oh Lord, y'all got me on video. Several different topics that you said throughout the evening, and I was gonna leave some little nuggets because for the past 14 years or so, me and my business partner have been doing this. So I'm gonna just leave you a couple of things. One point y'all talked earlier about mentors and Black mentors. Sometimes we seek mentors in the wrong kinds of people. And I'm gonna keep it brief by saying sometimes your mentor is not in your field of work. So find you somebody, they may be younger than you or older than you, but they need to give you those nuggets of wisdom to help you grow professionally. So don't always seek quote unquote seek a mentor that may be in your professional field. Y'all said something about Black professionals and men earlier. I didn't quite get my note down, but just note that there are plenty Black professional men or Black professional women out there. They just choose not to be out. No doubt. Oh, boom. My last one, my last nugget that I leave you with, y'all talked about examples of relationships and stuff like that. Sometimes our examples are not the best examples. Now, what I mean by saying that, and I'm gonna use myself as person. So in relationships, we kind of lean on either like our parents or maybe our aunts and uncles to kind of give us an example of a good relationship. My parents' relationship was crap. I want to say some other words, but it is crap. Use the other 4-letter word that begins with the letter S. So, and that wasn't a good example. Even my grandparents, they was married for 52 plus years before my granddaddy passed in 2016. And they still wasn't always the best example because, my grandma would just start an argument with my granddad for no apparent reason. So we don't always need to turn to a celebrity or even, like I said, our close family as a good example of what a relationship is. Like, I'm 42 years old and I'm still working at it. So just note that those things don't always, quote unquote, happen the way we expect them to happen and or want them to happen. It's the same way in a relationship. We always think, oh yeah, I'm gonna fall in love. We may talk each other's ear off, but at the end of the day, y'all might not even be compatible to each other. So stuff like that just happens. So just make sure that you don't step into any kind of preconceived notion or any kind of situation, whether it's personal, business, relationship, whatever. Just make sure that you have enough room to pivot and that at the end of the day, you're a happy person. That's all I wanted to say. I have more to say, like literally, I'm gonna show y'all my notes real quick. I got notes. Turn the video on. Boom, I got notes. Y'all can't see me, but I got like little notes on my little sticky pad here. But I had a long Zoom call with my homies from college. So that's the reason why I couldn't fully participate today. But I wanted to make sure that I leave y'all with that 2 cents. That's my 2 cents. And y'all have a blessed evening in the Lord.
Well, we appreciate that. And I just want to say, in situations like that where you didn't have healthy examples and you might have adopted toxic behaviors, or you don't know what a healthy relationship looks like, consider therapy. And I tell people this all the time. We advocate for therapy on this platform, and this is not directed to any person. But what I'm saying is we have the stigma as a culture against therapy. And I mean, you see Shantae, y'all been speaking to her now for 2 hours, and a therapist. Imagine being able, you won't find her. I'm sorry, guys. But if you were to find a therapist who could speak to your individual needs, it would really help you to understand what you learned that might not have been good for you to replicate in your relationship or in your life. And then it will help you to adopt new behaviors that position you for more successful relationships. And so don't be afraid. I know we might have been told not to tell our business, and I can go into all the things we've been told, but don't be afraid to do the hard work and the heavy lifting, because it's so rewarding once you're healed and you're healthy and you're happy, and you can pass that on to other people in relationships. I keep seeing hands go up. I'm gonna say this. It's the 10 o'clock mark. If anybody wants to hang up, I'm not offended. I wanna make sure that these last 3 people have a chance to have their comments heard. So if you hang up, thank you so much for joining us. Spread the word, tell folks about us so that they, log on next time. Next week is only women. Shantivia, I'm gonna come to you. Precious, your hand was up, and then we're gonna close out with Maureen.
No, I didn't really have much to say. I convinced my sister to listen in because I love these pods every Friday, and she's getting married on Saturday, and she wanted me to say
next Saturday.
Shut up. She wanted me to say that this blessed her and she enjoyed it and she really appreciated it.
Aisha, thank you very much for joining us.
Love
And
it.
thank you, Shartavia, for inviting her.
And congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. And then we have Precious. You were going to speak?
Oh no, I'm good. I'm gonna pass. I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Maureen, you want to close us out?
Sure. I want to say that the last slide is exactly it. You have, and I like the chemistry, the compatibility. We all got different meanings of it, and so it's kind of like kind of hard to like. I don't know if I froze. I look like I froze.
You're not frozen.
Okay. It's kind of hard to weigh in on that, but I agree that you have to know your spouse, you have to know your partner as you get to know them, but it starts with you knowing you first, because I don't think I would have been ready for my husband had God sent him any earlier than he did or any later than he did. But I do know that effective communication is very important. My husband told me off rip, because like I told you what my toxic trait was. He was like, boo, that ain't the real you. You was raised in Lauderdale. Don't give me that. I don't know what the Army done taught you. You need to tell me the real you, because if you give me that person that you give me, I'm bound to run over you. So he pulled it out of me, sometimes in a good way, sometimes not. But the reality of it was that it got us to a place where we can be who we are to each other and be able to respect it. And he always says, like, babe, the reason why I love you so much is because I started with respecting you. And I do think that it grows to the level of being able to stay committed to that process. Like, marriage isn't easy, but it's for the good. Like, it makes you understand ministry at its finest, because you never understand the next day. Like, the next day could be like this, the next day could be like that. But as long as you know your commitment is there, like Shantae said, hey, we about to fix it. If it's broke, we about to fix it. Or you said, one of y'all said it, because y'all like right next to each other, so I never really know, like, yeah. But you know, you have to be committed into repairing the things. Just because it breaks don't mean you take it back to the manufacturer. You get repairs. Sometimes you get on YouTube and do it yourself. Like, you have to be willing to put in the work. And when you put in the work, you get the results. You save money. You save costs, you save pain, you save all those heartaches. You may get some bruised knuckles here and there because you try to turn the wrench yourself instead of taking it to a mechanic. But at the end of the day, you got somebody to give you your Neosporin, got somebody to put your Band-Aid on, got somebody to drink your wine with at the end, and you still got somebody at home to celebrate with. Like, baby, we did that. So, you know, you got to put in the work if you want the results.
I agree with that. I will say, you know, I started dating my husband 11 years ago. And that was the first time I had been in a healthy relationship. So I dated my whole life, but and had kids and had been married before, but I had never been in a healthy relationship. So when I first got in a healthy relationship, it took time for me to adjust to like the normalcy of a relationship, right? Like not fighting all the time, not finding stuff in people's phones and all that crazy stuff. And I want to tell my single people, especially, just because there's a job posting, it doesn't mean it's the right job for you. So always remember that, because a lot of times we come into the situation single and we're out there looking and we're like, we want to get in a relationship, and you see a posting or a man and you go for the job and you ain't even vet the company. You don't know what the benefits are. You don't even understand what you're getting yourself into. And then when the relationship fails, now you're left with additional trauma before you even get a chance to connect with the person you're meant to be with. And now this person and you have to work through all this stuff together if you don't take the time to heal. And a lot of us don't take the time to heal. We go from relationship to relationship. We don't want to be single, and we want to just keep this vicious cycle going. And so I just want to encourage you, like, you can find a good relationship or it will find you, but make sure that you know what you will not, like, what is not okay, what you're not willing to deal with before you accept the position. Understand the benefits. That's all I'm going to say. Shantae, do you want to close with anything?
Just, remember that your partner is not the enemy. And to have hold space and grace for your partner, because we all are coming into relationships as our own individual selves with our own scripts and things that we learned in our family and just our own history. And sometimes it takes a minute to figure that stuff out. And so just as much as you want that person to show grace and space for you or hold space for you, do the same for your partner as well. So it's like the same things that you want, they want it too. Sometimes they just don't know how to verbalize it, right? And so they're not the enemy. And and just remember that at the end of the day, you're working on the marriage or the relationship, and you're not trying to fix the person. That's it.
That's a whole word, and that's
whole word.
So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate your engagement.
Yes.
I think that's it. We had a record high tonight. It was almost.
We did, y'all.
Yeah.
The high was 47 total, not including the spouses.
Can I ask a quick question, Shantae? What's your status on your Georgia license?
I'm
trying to find out this.
Okay, so they got to review my application. The board meets at the end of this month, so hopefully I will know something by the first or second week in June.
Okay, I'm waiting on you.
Okay.
One more thing I've got to tell you, Shantae and I are going to start doing, should we announce it now or should we wait?
Go ahead, girl. We done had a record high. Let's go.
So we're going to
say, do I need to announce it and then not announce it?
I know.
That's how it works.
So we're going to start hosting like after the event conversations. And so on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be on IG Live, and we'll be talking about the things we didn't get to discuss in this conversation. And it'll be a conversation that ties to the meeting that we had the preceding Friday. So we'll start doing that starting on Monday, this Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please come online, look for us, and be ready.
Yes.
And that's it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, ladies.
This was lovely.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. It was fun.
I'm going to say now, everybody else there jump off.
Go
enjoy your husband. Thank you, PJ. We appreciate you.
Good. Bye. See y'all.
Oh, he was ready.
I know y'all got y'all after hours and all that. You see what I'm saying? This is
No, you finna go do some after hours.
No, hey, grown people on the call.
No, I'm talking about recapping, like our conversations, this whole thing. This was awesome. You did good.
Thank you. All right, I'm trying to find the doggone end, but
look, when you had done gave a snippet of the Russell prayer, I was like, yes, ma'am. If you don't play that, I don't care what's going on. I need you to do that.
Well, I had to skip the other parts of the conversation because there was a lot of stuff to talk about, but we knew.
Yeah, but some people actually asked for seconds.
Wow, so
they want a part two. That sounds like, sis.
Well,
who is Cola Coast? I don't know who that is, but it popped up. I had him in the waiting.
That's my cousin.
Okay, because I thought it was somebody who was, so I put him in the waiting room till somebody told me.
Oh, if anybody comes to the call, you let him in.
Right, but it didn't look, how do I say this? Like the noise and all that stuff. So I was like, wait, I think it may have been spam. So I just wanted to make sure. That's what
I didn't want nobody to not be able to join the conversation.
No, they joined in, but then it was just like a lot of noise and everything. I was like, wait, let me make sure. It wasn't like last time that happened, when we had somebody who's trying to